I'm with Danny. I'm the event organizer, and I'm a graduate assistant work for the Office of Student Academic Services. And me, Najoya Adam, we're the team of Graduate Information Office, which is under OSAS. So when doing this event together, then I'm also a PhD student in educational foundations. And as I shared earlier, I'm in the final stage, working on really hard on my dissertation, trying to graduate in December. Yay! So, do you want to share some?
Oh, good morning, everyone. As Wendell said, my name is LaJoya Shelley, and I work in the Office of Student Academic Services as a graduate assistant as well. I do some undergraduate advising, and of course, I help Adam and Wendell as part of the Graduate Information Office team. I am a first-year PhD student in the Department of Educational Administration, and my research focuses on African-American women's success in doctoral education. So I'm happy to be here, very passionate about making sure that we all navigate graduate school successfully, and as well as part of community, because I think that's how we are most successful, when we come together and pull our resources. So happy to have you all here, and welcome.
I'm Dr. Adam Tanners. I'm the Graduate Information Officer for the college. I graduated from here with my PhD in special ed, and I've taught classes for here. I've done a lot of tech support. I'm kind of a jack of all trades for the college, but now I am focusing on supporting graduate students getting through, and primarily focusing on retention and satisfaction of graduate students coming through, doing a little bit of outreach for getting new students in, but primarily looking at helping you guys who are the current students actually making the most out of your experience here in the College of Ed.
I want to highlight some of the things we have been doing, and we create the graduate student list at COE next semester, and so we're trying to do some. We offer workshops like dissertation writing workshops and some graduate school information workshops, and we also do monthly lunch. So you got me, LaJoya Adam, and we just CCC, and we welcome all students to any
it's a brown bag lunch.
It's a brown bag lunch.
Last Tuesday of every month in the CCC. But we know it's lunchtime. We know it's hard for most people because you're working. Yeah. We're gonna try next semester maybe do like a after work type of thing once a month instead of a lunch. To try and hit more people, but for now we're doing the lunching. Everyone's welcome. Come in, join us. We're there the last Tuesday of every month downstairs in the CCC. As Wendy was saying, we do lots of workshops. We started you've probably all gotten the messages from us from the listserv that we send out. So whenever there's announcements that might be relating to graduate students, we let you know. We're working on a newsletter that's going to be going out a couple times a year as well about graduate programs and issues of interest to graduate students in the college. And we're also welcome to any ideas that you might have that you think, oh, this would be great if I had the college did this, that would help me. Let us know, and we're willing to work with you and come up with other ideas to make this experience here at UA the best one for you.
Yeah. And currently I feel that a lot of the resources that we're offering kind of underused. And we feel that the visibility of this team has not been that obvious. So try to encourage you guys to pay attention to the list and email that we send you from the listserv.
We're a new office, so obviously a lot of people don't realize we exist yet. So we're trying to do a grassroots effort to get the word out, let people know who we are and what we can offer you. In addition to these workshops and stuff, we are available for just talking with. I'm happy to talk with you and consult with you about just issues you might be having with your program, non-programmatic stuff. You know, that I leave to your faculty advisor. They're the experts on that. But navigating grad division, other issues, balancing work and life, anything else, I'm happy to talk with you and counsel you on any of those issues. Because I know sometimes it's hard to get in touch with your faculty and they're super busy. And I'm much more available than they are usually. things like that. You can ask these two, they jump in my office all the time.
So do you guys want to do a brief short introduction?
Hi everybody, good morning. My name is Yoshi, and I'm going to start my master's degree in computerology. I'm studying fall. Yes, I'm really excited that I have been accepted.
Congratulations.
I'm really excited for this opportunity. I just happened to find it when I was looking for events under the UH general knowledge.
Yeah.
So I did just receive as much as information. And I'm really excited. Thank you for inviting me.
Good. Thanks for coming.
Hi everyone, I'm Yuko Ida. I'm from Okinawa, Japan. I just started schooling here. So, and then I was an elementary school teacher in Okinawa for 7 years. And I'm studying educational foundations here. And I just started studying here, so I don't know how to handle the graduate school life, and then sometimes get overwhelmed by the heavy load. So I really appreciate this opportunity. I just wondering, what I can do to survive through this tough life. So I really appreciate it.
Good morning, my name is Kathy. I am finishing up my junior year here at UH Manoa. I am obviously a non-traditional student. I came back to school after 40 plus years of being away from the system. I started at KCC. I went there just to take one class. And then I went to a class whose professor just totally inspired me. So I registered to become, I got my AA, and then I thought, okay, that's enough. And then halfway through that, I went, I think I want to go on, so I transferred up here, thinking that that also would be the end. And then I went, okay, I'm gonna keep going. So I want to get as much information about, like you said, navigating. It may be a little bit, this presentation may not be as much information as I need as a beginning to, but I understand that I need to get as much information as I can to make the decision and what I need to do. So for me, and how you talked about underused resources, I'm all about resources.
Yes.
Everybody on the KCC campus used to ask me, where do I go for this? Because I asked and I looked and I thought, these departments exist for our benefit as students.
That's right.
And when you don't use them, it's like, why didn't you know about all of this? And it just kind of confounds me. And I guess part of it is because I am an older student and you ask and you look, because you're not just going to sit back and go, oh no, somebody will tell me. It doesn't happen that way. So I actually got notification of this workshop through my KCC counselor, who had gotten it from someone that passed it along to her. I'm a peer mentor at KCC as well, but she knew that a number of us who were here at UH now who had transferred were looking at going to graduate school. So she passed along the information to us, which I'm really grateful for. So I'm glad to be here.
Great.
Great.
I'm Kat. I'm also considered a junior here. I switched my major a few times, but right now I'm an English major, and I just picked up another major as well in women's studies. I just now realize that I probably am going to go for the master's, but I don't have any information on which way to go, where to start, or anything really. So I just started to kind of dip my toes into figuring out how to go about it. But I heard about this from her because we shared classes. So it's just something really just to get more information about the program.
We'll be happy when you're ready to make your decision. We'll be happy to help you with that.
Hi everyone, I'm Said Khan. I'm in the economics department. So I'm a graduate student currently, and I am also interested in like graduate student retention kind of research.
Yeah.
And so it's great to know a lot more about like that. So, yeah, that's why I stopped. Thank you.
Do you guys want to say something?
Yes.
Important too. You guys are
Hi everyone,
really
my name is
important.
Frank Jimolan. I am instructional support for this college. I work under technology and business program. I'm also a doctoral student in the learning design and technology program, and I am preparing for my proposal stage, which and my topic is gamification, the use of gamification elements in an online course.
I know Chester was in that program.
Chester was in that program, yes.
Chester,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he recently graduated.
Yeah, yes. He did like educational design and.
Yes, yes. So that's where I'm at.
Hi everyone, Shati Wanafasio. I actually work in the special education department in the college. But right now I'm actually interning with the old class department as part of my master's program in the education administration program here in college. Finishing up my master's degree. I really like this topic. I wish this was available to me when I first started my master's program. So I wanted to be here and see what it's all about. Hopefully you guys are able to.
So, thank you very much for sharing some background information about you. And actually, based on what you shared, that's something that feels so so related. Also, I'll talk about how it's related to my life and this in the presentation. So, I basically as you guys see the structure of today's event. As you guys see in the first page of the note tab, so we'll start with my presentation, which is mapping out resources and opportunities first, and then after that will be a student panel. We have 3 student panelists who will come to share experiences and ideas, suggestions. And then after that, we'll have 3 faculty discussants will come to work particularly with you, and then the last section is a free communication. So like just talk to the networking, and if you have any specific questions, you can ask any of us or to the faculty. And all this so far, the last time I checked the RSVP link, we had 44 students RSVP, and I'm not sure. I guess some of you have already know what's the content of RSVP link. It's basically it's a short survey. Ask what kind of question, concerns, challenges, or any idea you want to ask to focus on in today's event. Then another question talking about what kind of questions you want faculty to focus on, what kind of question you want the student panel to focus on. So this. So basically, I kind of analyze all those questions and concerns and break into different themes, and I'll cover some in this one, and then the student panel will cover some, and then so that's how we structure today's event. So today I just right now I'll just start my presentation. So it's of course it's clear talking about resources and opportunities. I guess I better move that way in order to fully control my screen. Okay. Next page. Oh, okay. So in this presentation, I'll talk about what's the situation, so what is the issue and the problem. Then after that, I'll cover what the resources and opportunities are, and then where they are and how to access them and use them. And also, I'll also highlight some of the characteristics, habits, also skills, strategies, what characteristics of the student who can help you best or maximize the learning or use all these resources. Then after that, I have tips on what to do and not to do at graduate school. Then the last session is a Q&A session. And so the situation, we see the issue and the problem, actually based on what you shared, a lot of them have mentioned, like you talk about non-traditional students, and I really like, Kathy, you mentioned that you talk, some of the departments actually are existing, however, if you don't use it, don't go, then nobody will come to tell you, hey, This is how I could solve it. And so I because that's my experience, and for me, also you mentioned like in your interest in graduate student retention issue, and me too, and so kind of relate to how I think of the issue. So that what the issue is, I came here to better explain that issue. I feel I want to share some of my personal background. I came here as an international student from a country. I think it's a developing country, but others may not disagree. I came from China, and I am. Well, my parents, they are business. They never go to college. They run small business. So that's kind of my background. And the first one in my whole family to go to college. And then, but when I say China is a developing country, like we don't. Even after I got my master's degree, that was in 2000. Which year I got my master's degree? I do have to count. Okay, so I got my master's in 2007. Even in that day, like 11 years ago, in China, it's a big city, second tier. It's not Beijing, Shanghai, but it's rich than other cities. Even at that moment, technology, like information publishing online, is not that popular. So here, all this information you post online, and you assume, you expect students to go find it out. But in my country, about that, what you talk about, people will come to tell you how to do it, what it is, and it's very centralized, just very different system. So when I came here, I had no idea. Oh, I didn't know that I was expected to find out information online, and I didn't have all the skills, and I didn't know. So what I used to do, I just go to ask people. Then when I do this, I practice that way. Then people told me, go to the internet. So even right now, I still, before at my beginning years, I didn't have the habit to Google, because in Google and those kind of or another like big search engine is not widely used in my country. That's why I say I came from a developing country. I know that sounds kind of bizarre to you, but that's the reality. And so a lot of the issues, to be honest, my beginning years, I was miserable. I didn't know what to ask, who to ask, how to ask. And then and I feel, and I thought that was my problem. I thought, oh, that's because I was not good enough. I thought I'm the only one. Everyone seems so advanced than me. I thought I feel that I missed out many opportunities to learn I missed the opportunities and resources. So because that's kind of personal motivation for me to read articles and do research about graduate student retention, particularly because I'm a doctoral student, about doctoral student experiences and attrition. Then I found that, actually there's a national problem about non-traditional graduate students, because especially in grad school, the doctoral student attrition rate is about 50%. So today's issue actually is about the integration of non-traditional graduate students. And the problem in the literature, you talk about there's a lot of assumptions, what's the expectation in grad school. And people tend to think that graduate students already know where the resources and opportunities are. Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. How are we defining non-traditional graduate student? What does that word
mean
to you?
So, yeah, that's a very good question. So that means, based on literature, so many, it's kind of problem to kind of problematic to dichotomize traditional and non-traditional. However, the research do found that there are many students who tend to experience some so-called invisible barriers, and those students tend to come from like first generation college students, first generation graduate students, international graduate students, part-time graduate students, or students with disability, or senior graduate students who work many years and come back and found that the peers are very different from them, or doctoral student parents with young family, or with young kids, or single doctoral student parents. Those kind of call it kind of the tradition. The literature tend to frame traditional students as like who work full-time graduate student who are from the white or dorm, those kind of, that's the image the literature tend to present about traditional and non-traditional graduate students. So the assumption that graduate students who come to the graduate student, either they already know the resources or opportunities, or it's expected they will figure it out on their own. So I found it as a problem. That caused a lot of problem. So all the so this presentation is based on my personal experiences, also my research, and my many years of trial and testing advices based on the research. I have been here for almost 9 years, so so kind of that's how my based on that. Then so the resources and opportunities are the people or the offices or the department created to support student success, or it can be student associations or some organizations. So they can be your peers, like who are taking classes with you, or they can be the faculty in your department, or they can also be some like Dr. Adam Tanner's, like from OSAS, the particular office to support you. By the benefits of knowing this, you kind of can know, for example, some information you would never know from taking classes. Like which, for example, which professor is good at helping students, which professor we need to help you publish, or the strengths and needs. Those kind of information you will not gather from elsewhere. But if you know some, you have the know people, and then you can that's how you get the information. Then those kind of offices and the people they will create some activities or events they can share, for example, in your department. So try to pay attention to those, and those are the places, or those are the resources, or they are the people to create the resources and opportunities for you. So at COE, at this campus, normally they are at the department level. So as I mentioned, faculty, peers, or in the graduate program, you have a graduate student coordinator. This role is created to help you with issues you do not feel comfortable or you don't know about, and to talk with your faculty. Some critical issues like, how I feel I have a tension with my faculty, with my advisor particularly, and because there's a direct power issue between me and my advisor, who I can talk to, but I do need to solve this problem. So this is the role. This is the person created to help you with these issues. And then the department secretary is also a very important role. However, it's always underused or underrecognized as a resource. Like you can about the placements, like in the RSVP survey, you talk a lot of what kind of jobs I can do with my degree, what careers I can pursue. But the secretary, you can ask the graduate student, the alumni who graduate from this program, where did they go? What kind of job they go? So secretary is a resource to tell you all this kind of information. I can share if you ask the right question or ask appropriately, you can get those information.
The secretaries often know a lot more than everyone else in the department.
That's what I
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And Sheldon is a secretary. You know that, and he knows that a lot of
If you want to know anything about the SPED department,
yes.
she knows it all.
So the secretary is a person, anything about the program, faculty, students, and other issues. History is a person to go and ask. Then sometimes it depends on which program, which department you are in. Some program department have offer more social academic events than others, and then but once because of especially in recent years because of funding being cut largely, so when I want to emphasize when they offer it, make full use of it. Don't say, oh, I feel so tired today, I'll come next year. You assume that this will maybe come often, but actually it's not. There's no guarantee. If they don't have funding, they want to, but they won't be able to afford it. So every time when those opportunities are on, pay attention to it. Try to go as often as you can. And then at the college level, so OSAS, Office of Student Academic Services at COE is an office of the department created particularly with a goal and mission to support student success, especially non-traditional students. So any issues about what class should I register or anything, I even know that for graduate students who took a class and then somehow submit paper and I will through communication with the professor, and the professor forgot to check or missed out, then the student was failed the class, and students said, oh, actually I sent it, then the communication between the student and professor was not very well, graduate student. Then she went to OSAS and OSAS helped solve those issues. I just want to know, let you guys know the visibility and potentially benefit of going to OSAS. They're very caring faculty, and they are they are willing to offer. They are constantly they listen and know your concern. They do not judge, and yeah. Then at college level, we also I want to highlight the importance of knowing other peers in other programs. And I tend to find that many graduate students tend only to hang out or know the student. For example, in economic.
I actually
yes.
personally have something to add to that. This is very important.
Yes.
Personally, I found, like, when I came, like, I would say that I was not the best student in my cohort. I was a very bad student, I would say, in my opinion. So I used to ask, like, stupid questions to my peers, to my classmates, and they were, like, super smart in my cohort, and they used to, like, give me a blank look. You don't know how come you came to this program. So I actually found a better way. I communicated with people from other departments, and I actually finished my coursework with one of the top CGPAs, more CGPA than my cohort after that. I think that it helped me a lot to know from other peers that how they're studying, how they're tackling new stuff, how they're learning new stuff. So it helped me a lot. I thought that I was at the beginning very bottom, but I finished at the very good.
Yeah.
This point is very important.
That's very important. And I also want to share. You are an international student, right?
I am.
I'm an international student, and a lot of issues, because at this college we don't have that many international students. A lot of issues I have to go to and to only my international peers will know what my feeling or learning. I have to go to other colleges and to other programs to find the top, and then it's really good that you have someone to hear you, and then they experience issue and they found a way to solve it. So and they share that. So that's very important.
So you don't talk to your own peers, just peers from other departments.
It's a very broad. It's a broad term. It's not just in my program at this college. It can even mean the peer graduate at other universities in other countries.
So they share the same problem.
Yes, because a lot of the graduates, especially non-traditional graduate student issues, is nationwide or even international wide. So yeah.
If I may, I've also connected with peers digitally. So through social media, there are sometimes there are groups I'm in a Women of Color in Graduate School group on Twitter. I'm also a part of a sister network called Sister PhD. So it's a group of African American women in doctoral programs. And so, of course, these are specific to me, these ones that I'm citing. But also don't be afraid to look digitally. For me, being the only African American female in my department who's doing the type of research that I'm doing, it's important to me to reach out to other Black women, right? Not that I'm not receiving support. So I use these groups to also help me. So sometimes it may not be physical, but it can also be digital. So just want to offer that.
Yes. Yes, question.
So I'm just curious to know, is there regular events for, say, non-traditional graduate student activities on campus or organizations that really do?
I based on my knowledge so far, there's not one particular design, but we are aware of those issues because we are non-traditional. I am personally you are well first we are non-traditional. Yeah, I'm non-traditional in many ways. First generation international graduate student parent with young kids. I have two young boys, little boys, and then I'm working a lot of time. I'm a part-time graduate student because I work. No, even sometimes I work 2 jobs at the same time. So yeah, I want to highlight that this office and OSAS, we're trained to know, we're all aware of those issues. So although so far there's no particular office or department created to support non-traditional students, we always trying to offer some when we have the opportunity. Thank you. And then, so I want also highlight, I noticed that it's kind of a lot of resources underused at Graduate Student Association. And so at the college, we have COESA, which is College Education Doctoral Student Association. Then we also have HISA, which is and the COE, that's another department called Education Administration. It's the students, they have their own student association, and the president is over there. Okay, then and COESA, the president is over there. and
working on a master's student association. One doesn't exist yet. Right. We'll be starting one.
Yeah, if anyone you are interested in initiating one, please let us know. You can create one.
Oh, right, yes. No, I'm a master's student.
Not yet. We're working on one, but so if any of you who are going to be master's students want to be involved with that,
yes,
let us sign up. Let us know. We can get it started.
Take the lead. Yes. Then another thing I want to highlight. So how you can best use it? So you can become I'm a council member, actually council member at COESA. How you use it is that you join it and you know what issue you come from, right? So you propose what event to go, and you take lead to find the resource and the faculty to solve. For example, I want to know how to publish as a secondary learner. Then I can propose such an event, then find the people to go, and actually I'm the person who benefits the most. But you have to go to because those events kind of organized, normally offered by the student association. You can join this and you can do those kind of things and benefit yourself. Then and you by kind of relate to this one, if you want to know as many graduate students in other programs, the more high chance for you to know which class, which faculty is most popular and students like most. And then normally there's a reason for that, because the students care more, or because they're good and know what the student the challenges. So, but you have to know many students in order to know which professors are popular at college level, not just in your program. Then another, I've personally found dissertation defense, no matter if you're undergraduate student, master degree student, doctoral student, go to this place. And you learn how you learn a presentation skill. You also kind of know how to interact with faculty, and you can get a sense the quality, a good quality dissertation, not very good, and you can ask them for the very good ones. And not what I do was I feel that I can consider that there's an emerging star scholar in the future. So I go, how did you develop these skills? Who helped you most? How did you handle the issue? Because I always care about the relation with faculty. How did you handle your faculty-student relationship? They are finishing it. They'll be very honest. They'll tell you everything. And I personally, that's how I benefit a lot.
I have to agree with that. I think it's important, very important for undergrads, incredibly important for master's students, vital for doctoral students. Honestly, it's like a must for doctoral students.
Yes.
Go to as many as you can before your own.
The more you go, the more questions you ask, the more you know your college. And then also events, the college-wide events like this one. For example, and other ones like faculty candidate talk, conversation with the dean, with some other events like the college organizing, offering. And although may not sound interesting to you, this is not my research interest, this is not from my department, but always go. The more you always can learn something indirectly, benefit your professional development. Then at the campus level, so for the graduate students, there is a GSO, means graduate student organization, and then they used to, I don't know if they still have the funding to do it, like monthly coffee hours they do.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed something.
So, yeah, no, the deadline is still there for this semester.
Okay. No, I'm thinking about the monthly. They used to have coffee hour. Oh, great! Let's go together.
The coming is, I think, next week.
Okay, I'll go. I'll join. Thursday, Tuesday.
Let me check.
Okay, it's a great place to meet other graduate students in this campus in other colleges. So my experience, I go there, I just have to I feel, how did you guys manage your time? And then you ask 10 people, you got 10 different tips. So it's a great place.
Another event that we're doing for the College of Education, just to put a shameless plug in, is we're doing a student faculty research night on Thursday the 19th at 5 o'clock, which is going to be here, where faculty will be sharing their research ideas with students.
Every Thursday.
Just Thursday the 19th is going to be our first one.
Another one I want to highlight. I want to highlight CTE and OG. CTE means Center for Teaching Excellence. I used to have a misconception. I didn't use this resource because I didn't know. I thought it was created for supporting faculty. But I'm a student, so I didn't pay attention to the resource and opportunity offering. And years later, I found that a lot of the workshops actually benefits to graduate students. For example, like mentoring experiences, or the resume, what's called CV? How to pronounce CV?
Curriculum vitae.
Yeah, curriculum vitae, and those kind of workshops they also offer. So pay attention to that. Center of Teaching Excellence. The OGE, I know that changing the name.
They already changed it. It's now Grad Division.
Okay, it's called Graduate Division, but it used to call Office of Graduate Education. And they I think in recent 2 years, they start to offer workshops to particularly designed for graduate students. And then so pay attention to the website, and when they announce it, pay attention to those events I want to highlight. Then yes, you just mentioned that.
Yeah, the next GSO coffee hour is on the 11th. 11th at 10 a.m.
11 is the Thursday.
Then they didn't mention it here. Sometimes on the center library line.
Yeah. Used to. Yeah. Yes. A good place.
But they didn't announce it yet. They'll do it.
Yeah. They provide coffee and some snacks, pastries. It's a nice place to meet people. Then also, and normally the people who go tend to have the same characteristic. They are willing to share. They are willing to talk. The other campus-wide events, like for example, these events I publicized at the UH event calendar, and some other events like dissertation defense in other colleges. Normally, the one that's public at campus level are the good ones, like the faculty think is good dissertation defense, good research. So you go, you learn the skills. This, for example, sometimes I go to Scheidler Business College, but I see how they're so professional, how they dress, even just look at how they dress up, the way how they talk. I feel it's a learning experience for me. Then, so beyond the campus level, a lot of time is related to the professional associations or organizations. So try depending on what field, what conference your professor normally go. So pay attention to those they have. If you become a member, you get to know the resources.
And go to conferences.
Yes. And so I think it's
Professional conferences, whether it be national, state, international, whatever. You'll meet, not only will you'll meet peers, you'll meet other students, you'll meet faculty, you'll meet experts in that field. And it's a fantastic networking opportunity for you and incredibly educational.
And our GSO gives
Yes.
In the US, it's $1,000, $2,000, and if it's an international conference, up to $2,000. And they take application every semester. And you can apply multiple times. Like you can apply every semester. So do that. Like it's very good. Very good.
Then, so how you do it? Just you guys mentioned be a member, and it's very important to stay active. And especially, I noticed that being proactive is it's very important, especially in this culture. Then, try not to hold the issues to yourself, and not asking and expect that someone will come to you and tell you. So I think those kind of habits, personally, I think those are important. So the habits of start to work on project as early as possible. So a lot of in the RSVP, you mentioned a lot about time management, and just a practice tip I would say, just work on it early. And you don't want to stay up several days and nights except for one project. It's doable, but it's not sustainable. You cannot expect always do it that way. Also, the habit of not feeling shy. You do have to ask questions and keep asking questions, because only you know what issue you confront. And even if you don't know, I sense that I'm caring or faculty. You may have my student may have an issue, but I don't know what special issue you have. So it's good to ask. Then the habit of initiating meetings and conversations with peers, faculty, and scholars. So it's I know it's hard to do this at the beginning, but the more you do, the more comfortable you are with those kind of issues. Then I already talked a lot about emphasize that. So to try to use as many try to use those resources and opportunities as many as possible when they are available, and just as LaJoya mentioned, find your own group, connect with them, no matter it's physically or digitally. And also, actually, there are many books and articles talking about, not just academic, talking about graduate student, non-traditional graduate student issues. Find this book, and those really helpful. And so, what not to do? Still, again. Try to reach out and be active and proactive, and try to create resources for yourself, and not just rely on one single resource. Only rely on your peer in your own department. Go to see other people at the college, at the campus, and in other universities.
I want to just reiterate the find your own group thing. When I was going through my doctoral program, we weren't cohorted. We did not have one. So I kind of created my own. And the other member of my cohort, we were a two-person cohort, is now a faculty in this college. Wow. And we are still good friends. We still publish together. So that is probably one of the most powerful things you can do when you're going through, is creating your own little group. And because you tend to stay closer with those than with these format ones.
Yes.
Good to have like a research network of your own.
Yes. Yeah.
Another maybe my personal experience to share is that I used to do a research other or international doctor student experiences, and then I interviewed like 30-some students, and then some of you tell me all of that research I've done like 7 years ago. I still, that kind of comment I always remember. He told me, no matter what research topic you are in, no matter how like what's the word? Like how unique, how centralized, like in particular focus on one area, and how you may think that you are the only one know it, and you feel that, oh, I have to rely on myself and shoot out. But actually, there always a group, not just there are always other people, even a group of other people are doing exactly the same thing or very similar thing you use. So if you don't see it in your program, in your department, in your campus, go to find them in other areas and stay connected with them. And he told me this. I feel, wow, amazing. And I still remember today, and I keep sharing that comment with other graduate students. And that's very right. No matter professional issue, academic issue, or personal issue, emotional issue, I think find your own group and then join them, they'll become your support.
That's also incredibly important if you're a doctoral student and you're planning on becoming faculty. It's really important to know faculty at other universities as you advance through your career.
Yes.
So getting these connections early is just going to make that really solid and
Yes.
be beneficial for you throughout your entire academic career.
A question for
Yes.
you, Madam.
Mhm.
Because we keep saying it's important to do this. Do you have any advice for how to? Because you know what I mean, how to engage with faculty.
How to,
How to engage with faculty, how to engage with peers.
you mean
For some of us who might be hesitant
Yeah.
about that process, or maybe think like, how do you approach? Because sometimes networking can feel daunting. So could
Yeah,
you give any
yeah.
advice?
So my yes.
Oh, I don't need it. I
Yeah.
was just asking.
Yes. So in our another component, I talk about the faculty discussion group. There's a faculty or particularly focus on this issue. And this one. Then I just told my personal experience. I was the student. I really felt shy, and because I'm doing everything in my second language. Also, just in China, like the system is so different. The student is required to stay on campus in the dorm. So a lot of information is gone, and also a cultural issue. Even I do not walk to talk to faculty. I would always have the resource. Just someone would announce it. Go to the dorm. Hey, da 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 da. So it's really hard for me to reach out. And in my beginning years, I always kept the issue to myself. Then I graduated where I have to change. I had to change. Then how I did it? It's a process. It's a transition. That's a transition. For me, it's kind of long. So I know based on literature, I know I have to do that. So I just keep trying. So the first thing, I always feel jealous about my American peers. Seems so easy just to initiate conversation. Hey, stop a faculty at the hallway. I was, how to do that? I didn't feel that close and comfortable to stay in the conversation with them. But then just encourage, and then just. So my first thing is just knock at the door. Hey, professor, can I talk to you? So I feel at my first times I feel very uncomfortable, but I kept doing it, and the more I kept doing it, the more I feel comfortable. Just it kind of self-training process for me. Then I also try to seek a lot of tips from my graduate peers. Like I always ask Frank and others, co-asa, any member. How do you guys start conversation with faculty? And I also go to the monthly coffee hour at CSO. What's your relation with the faculty? If I never met him, how do I start a conversation? There's no connection between me and so. And when I go to conference, I ask people how do you connect with the faculty? The more I ask, the more I will. It's not just an issue to me. It's not just me. Many graduate students. And then when I realize that, I feel more comfortable with my awkward stage of doing that. And then the more I know faculty, yes.
I'd like to add another thing. If you work as a graduate assistant working in a college, this is another opportunity to work with faculty.
So a couple of things on that. One, addressing Frank's issue, that's really good because what it does is it actually reverses the roles sometimes, particularly in a position like Frank's where he's tech support, where the faculty is going to him as the expert. So it makes things a lot easier, kind of reverses their roles. The other thing about just comfort with speaking with faculty, I would have to say, in my experience, most faculty want you to engage with them.
I agree.
So don't feel nervous about it. Oh my God, I'm disturbing them. You're not. They want you there.
Yes.
They complain about students that don't talk with them.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
One, they always engage with me, which is beautiful. The other, I have to chase. And then there are about 20% I can chase forever. And I make sure they don't go into the, getting the meaning with them. So engage the students make it a lot easier, and then they graduate a lot faster. Their job prospectors and quality of job prospectors way up. It's all fun together.
Yes.
So one of the things that I do when I get a course and I see my professor, I get onto the university website, their CV is listed on there.
Yeah.
Open up that CV, it's gonna tell you where they went to college. For instance, maybe they went to college on the East Coast, maybe, so you start to get a picture of like what happened in their life, and they also list everything they published. Google that stuff, look it up. I'm not saying read everything, but like if you can kind of get a feel for what area of interest that their personal research is in, where they're from, maybe some things, maybe they're not from the East Coast, but they went to college on the East Coast. Like maybe you went to college on the East Coast, or try to find some similarities, and that'll help you in that initial like awkward, what do I talk about? I don't want to just walk in and be like, so let's get to know each other. It's kind of awkward, like, oh, hey, I noticed that you wrote this article on such and such. I'm also interested in that. Is there a specific book on that you would recommend to me? Or, it kind of gives you a little bit of information to not just be, what do I talk about?
Yeah.
So that's just something that
Okay. Yes, thank you. That's a very good comment.
And you had a question?
Well, I feel because my undergraduate is nothing to do with the psychology. So my concern is whenever I go to the graduate level classes, maybe I'm really afraid to ask questions. On the other hand, maybe rest of the graduate students, maybe graduate soon after they graduate from undergraduate, they continue to study masters. So that's my concern, that's my challenge.
I would say they address that as the same thing as I mentioned before about speaking faculty and them wanting you to talk with them. They also want you to ask questions. Even if you yourself are insecure and think it's a dumb question, your faculty won't. They'll address it. They'll want you to ask the question. They'd rather you ask a question and be able and have them answer it than you be lost in the class and fall behind.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
Hi,
Please.
I'm Christy. I'm a PhD student in curriculum studies. So until I took EdStats, educational statistics, I hadn't taken a math class since I was 16. That was like a really long time ago. So being able to advocate for yourself, and I wasn't the only person that was like struggling with the math. There was like in the class, like there were the people that were really great at the math, but like struggled with the writing. I was great with the writing, but didn't know how to talk about the math. And so we were able to work together. And one thing that we did is we told our teacher, our professor, who was amazing. I was like, hey, like I can do the equations, I can get the answer. I don't know how to talk about the answer. Can you help us out with that? So what we started doing is as a class, we started developing sentence frames. And then we had this nice like Google Doc that we could then give to other students later on in the course. And so it helped us, it helped her as a professor, because she couldn't tell, like, do we not get the math or do we just not know how to talk and really about it?
That's a great point. And again, getting back to the issue of like feeling nervous about your question, chances are you're not the only one with that question.
Right.
Yeah. Even people who just graduated with that area, that they may not know that it's a specific thing, or maybe they were 18 that day, and just like hungover and didn't get it. Just because you have a degree and it doesn't mean you know everything about that thing. I mean, it's just there's so much variance.
So follow up on that. Many times in your case, you say, oh, my handwriting degree is not meaningful, therefore I feel like it. But the truth is in your life, in policy, we're using through our own life. Look, he's teaching me. That's not all the beautiful here, right? And how to mom, and how to exercise, a wonderful teacher, right? That's a beautiful professor. So we use it all the time. But maybe you do not know the special terms, the big terms of specific theories. But you have your own. You have very successful students. Many times we don't give ourselves the credit over the profound knowledge and unique experiences that have got. So under that, you are not behind. You are not shorter. And you can give from another perspective, make a contribution. I've seen the animated classes who talk about too many years. People are learning. Nobody can relate. Right? We are not making it relevant to life. Make it much more. So never push yourself down. Lift yourself up and then bring everyone else up too. Thank you. I'm having fun.
Okay, so I kind of I kind of run my time, but basically I cover all I want to say. But I want to highlight my last comment is that a maximized learning is a customized learning, and this is particularly true in graduate school. That's my experience. That's my feeling, and I want to share with you also make you feel. I want to add another thing. Don't worry. Don't concern about making mistakes or problems. So especially when you talk to the faculty, I did some very awkward thing. I go to the faculty and say, "Hey, can I talk to you? I want to have a conversation with you." I do say that. I say, "Can you be my mentor?" And I even say, "I have an article I want to publish. Can you help me?" Because I'm an international student and I didn't know how to manage the relationship at the moment. I couldn't help it. I just go there and right now when thinking that that's so awkward. And I remember I always so jealous just as you shared. Look at the CV and what? There's a CV on website of faculty. I didn't have that problem. I feel that's American experience because you know the system. Yeah. But I didn't. So I didn't know that's the reason I can go and how can I know my faculty? I never take the class or I take the class. I only take his class. I don't know his research. And how do I start the conversation? I want to have a conversation with you, but I don't know how to start the conversation. I even said that in front of my faculty. See? Maybe that's the worst example you can have, but and then I survived and I even thrived. So don't worry about any.
Other faculty can help you as well. If you've got a mentor that you work with, and this happened with me when I was going through my program, I'd be talking to my mentor about a specific research issue, and he'd be like, "Oh, talk with so and so. They're the expert on that."
Okay. So
yeah, actually, to add to that, from a secretary's perspective, because I'm a secretary for the Department of Special Education, I know faculty, I know their areas of expertise, and I know the ones who are a little bit more approachable than others. So if you talk to the secretary, you can kind of build that gap instead of meeting or something. Get you guys into contact.
As we said earlier, the secretaries know everything.
Yeah. Use them.
So thank you, everyone. We'll move to the second component. Thank you. Okay. So we have three panelists or passionate peers who are very willing to share.
Okay, we'll take a little break for a second,
okay.
And then.
This is my fabulous student panelist. So would you like to? I plan to see this component this way. So then do self-introduction, and then I'll see what kind of questions. I already have developed the questions based on your RSVP survey, and they have already prepared it. But I wonder if you have particular questions that they like focus on something more. The panel more responsive to your needs and concerns. Would you like to introduce yourself again?
Sure. My name is Alicia Allen. I am a MEDT. I'm about to finish my first year in the Masters of Education and Teaching program here. I went to college right after high school, Sweetbriar College in Virginia. I went straight to graduate school, got a master's degree in public administration. I worked in business for several years. Then I joined the Army and worked as a social scientist for about a decade, and then the Army sent me back to graduate school for international security studies, and then I left the Army and decided I was going to be a teacher, and the MEDT program offered a good certification, and it's all, in the classroom right away. So I moved to Hawaii to come here for this program, and that's my story, educationally speaking.
I am Michael Cautery. I am 2 days away from submitting my dissertation to my committee. Yeah, so that's good. I got a lot of work to do, so forgive me if I leave immediately after. Yeah, that's after a 10-year journey here, so I'm in my 10th year. I took a year off, but I came here in 2007 after teaching social studies and English on the mainland for a number of years, and was fortunate enough to get a faculty position at Leeward Community College in teacher preparation, and then managing a full-time job and full-time graduate school, or at least graduate school, and then getting to this stage has been incredibly challenging, and I'd be happy to share sort of anything that would help you guys along the way. And I feel like it's definitely one of those, if I knew now what I should have known then, my life probably would have been a lot easier.
Which program are you
In Ed Foundation?
Foundations?
Hi, I'm Christy Watley. Like I said, I'm in my third year of the Curriculum Studies PhD program. I'm finished with all of my coursework, and I'm proposing in about 4 weeks. So also have a pretty large amount of work to do. I'll be taking my comprehensive exams at the same time. So I am an English teacher at Waipahu Middle School. I'll be an instructional coach and curriculum coordinator for the school as well next year. So I also have been doing this full time. I have a son. This is Gavin.
I should have no complaints, seriously.
His dad is in the military, so he's right now in Korea, which is another reason why Gavin is with me wherever he went. So yeah, I would love to answer any questions you guys have about work-life balance, time management, how you do this, and also do everything else that you need to do in your life. Yeah.
So do you have the questions?
Well, yeah. Well, can I ask really, just before, is it okay? What format would help, have you guys thought through what format would help you best to move through this? Asking questions is fine with me. Would there be anything that would be more helpful that you've been thinking, or should it just be a answer question type of scenario?
Yeah, so kind of maybe info what's in data. So actually, I asked them to prepare for 6 questions. It's based on the student survey. So the first question is your personal journey of challenges, barriers you have overcome, and barriers and you have encountered, and how did they solve it? And based on the lessons that they learned, what tips do they have for new students regarding navigating grad school? The second question they have prepared is how to network at grad school. How about for labor and students? The third question is tips for thesis completion. The fourth question is practical tips on work, school, and life balance. So the 5th question is comments on the necessity of accountability, self-discipline, professionalism, and who you own weight when working in a group dynamic. The last question is how to make the most of the program. So if you don't have, if you think that that's your question and you don't have anything to add or want to focus on, then they will, we can do the formatting. I asked the question, they give advice if they have the really relevant experience. If not, if you want to ask question, they answer, that's also another format.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's what you mean.
Yes, yeah, just in case, just to kind of set it up. I think that's a great setup. And then we can answer, and then we can navigate as we go, yeah.
Because since we have such a small group, and we want make you guys maximize the learning. And I really thank Michael for coming here, because he's under lots of pressure. He has to submit everything in Monday and Saturday.
Maybe I should have done a little bit more organizationally.
So you want to answer the questions first?
Yeah, now I think that gives us a little bit more of a context, and I think we can,
Okay.
if you feel like, I don't.
Yeah, you guys want to just take turns starting? So the first question is.
Are we going to go?
I'd like to hear the,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
So the first question that we prepared was your personal journey of challenges, barriers you have overcome, and how did you solve it? Based on the lessons you have learned, what tips do you have for new students regarding navigating grad school? So you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. So a couple of things for me personally in my journey. A lot of it has had to do with logistics, obviously, with a child, with my husband gone a lot, with working full time. Childcare for me, I've found on the island has not been super reliable or super consistent. So one of the things that I heard Wendon talk about a little bit is the importance of not ever going to just one source. So, and that I would talk about with like absolutely any aspect of grad school. So like one aspect of grad school for me that's been important is finding reliable childcare. I know that I need to have more than one person. So I actually have about like 4 people on my roster. Unfortunately, all of them were busy this morning. Which kind of goes to my second point, is one thing personally that I've had to learn to deal with is humility, and understanding that like the way that I functioned as a student and as a worker before I started grad school, I can't do that anymore. Like I always wanted to make sure that all of my papers were 100% edited and done like a week before the due date. And I wanted to make sure that all of my lesson plans for school were flawless. And I would like cook all these homemade dinners for my son. And I've learned that I can't do everything. And so part of that is having the humility to understand that it's okay. There's nobody that can do it all, and that's been kind of hard for me to come to terms with, but I think I'm there. Like I never would have brought my son to a professional anything before this, but now I know that I have to in order to get through this program. The other difficult thing for me obviously has been time management. Lots and lots of stuff going on. So one of the things that's been the most helpful for me is to set a schedule and do a little bit for everything I need to do every single day. So I know that on Mondays and Wednesdays, those are my 3-hour writing and research blocks. I know that on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I get like an hour and a half in. And if I need anything other than that, that's when it starts to impact my sleep a little bit, and try to keep like the weekends free. But if I didn't set a schedule and stick to it, even on days that like I don't have deadlines coming up, I wouldn't get there, because I know that I can't just like pull an all-nighter the way that I would in my master's program or in my undergraduate. It's just not feasible or sustainable as an older student or as a mom.
I think that the idea of, and I know that many people, I don't have children, I don't have responsibilities outside of myself. So I am very fortunate in that regard. And maybe in that way, didn't early on have to force myself into a schedule. And I think that's probably an incredibly important part. And then I would add to that, where in your process are you, right? So you have this writing block. What part of the process are you working on? And I think, Anne Fries is here, who has an amazing class which helps you to do that. And I would imagine that if students were to take that class very early on in their graduate studies, they would be able to have this framework in their head, be able to really identify which area of the process are you working on. Because the process in and of itself has been done thousands and thousands and thousands of times. It's not a linear process, right? It's a little bit different for each person, and certainly Anne, I think, would have much more experience with that. So I try to frame when I work on what I'm working on within like 10 questions, right? Just thinking about, okay, what is the problem that I'm talking about, and have I defined that thoroughly? And if I haven't, then I continue to work on that stage, right? Because that's the very first thing. And I feel like it's very easy to get overwhelmed with the breadth of what you need to do or what you're responsible to do, especially as you move up into the PhD or the dissertation stage, because there's just so many pieces to it. So I feel like that is probably the one thing that I would sort of add is, when you schedule, what section are you working on? And then if you had to tie it back into conversations that when you would approach a graduate faculty, it's like, I am working on this section. Can you help me with this section? I'm looking for a resource for this section, whether it be your problem or your methodology or where you're finding the information or data collection. And then you can really have a pointed work. Yeah?
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think more than just understanding where you are in your process, but also understanding how you best work and at what time of the day you best work. So like, I know for me, like I can read in the evenings, I can edit in the evenings. If I have to do any like strong mental work, So if I have to, if I'm drafting something new that like I'm not super sure where my ideas are headed, if I need to come up with some sort of like overarching framework or like step back and look at the big picture, that has to happen in the morning when my brain is fresh before I go and like do everything else that I need to do for the day. I have to hit that first. So as I'm planning where I am, I also need to look at my schedule and figure out when, even during the day that's going to happen, where that's going to happen. I know that the heavy mental lifting for me is never going to happen in my house because there's going to be a million distractions there.
Yeah.
So I need to make sure that I can find a time to get out of the house in the morning. And that's just been, again, something that I've learned, but if you can figure that out really quickly, it's going to help you so much.
I 100% would agree with each piece of that.
So for me, I had a lot of challenges with money and just like, not just how am I paying for school, but like where am I going to live and what am I going to eat and things like that. So at the time when I was having these issues, I resolved it by taking student loans, like the max I could get. And that is the money that I used. And I did have like small jobs, but it wasn't full-time work that sustained me. And this enabled me to focus on my programs, but then left me with a lot of crippling debt. So I'm not sure I would make the same decisions looking at it from the backside. So I managed that. After I worked in business and just couldn't, paying my loans and trying to survive in big city Chicago, I joined the Army and had my loans paid. So that may seem very drastic to the people sitting here, but I was younger at the time. And so for me, that was a big answer. That was a challenge and an answer that I had. I think now a lot of people are kind of working full time and going to school part time. And I think that's not it's hard to focus on your program when you're not like in your program. And I know a lot of people feel like there's no other way to do it, but I would strongly encourage you to figure out how to not have to work a full-time job, if at all possible. And one of the things, so at the time when I was in school, I was involved, I don't have a child of my own, but I was involved in elderly care. And so in order to create time in my schedule, I would have like little partners in crime, I guess. So we would all I would babysit, and that would be like my day. Like Wednesdays, I watched, the people, and then they had study time. And then Thursdays, they watched the people, and I had study time. And so I didn't have a lot of money. So we just kind of swapped our labor for each other and kind of created a co-op, because I can get everything done at the store in 20, minutes or less if I'm not, dragging everybody with me. And just thinking out, I hate not thinking outside the box. I hate that term, but just like being as creative as possible on ways to get things done in your life the most efficient way as possible. And we're going to get to, there's specific questions on time management, but as far as just straight challenges, I don't know, if it's a challenge, just look at it and talk to other people, near peers. Someone who's farther away from you is not going to understand, someone who's just starting graduate school, you want to talk to somebody who's in graduate school. And I can think back to my first graduate program and all the things that, we did to kind of survive and eat ramen and all that, but I'm grown now and I don't want to eat ramen. So you want to talk to someone who's kind of in your area of life, basically. If you're a mother with young children, that's going to be your best resource. And you might find that resource at church, or you might find that resource through online organizations. I've been to professional conferences where you meet people, and then you can start networking at that point, and those folks can help you just with the challenges you're specifically having, because you're going to find whatever's happening in your life, there's a bunch of other people who have the same thing going, and they have creative ways that they're dealing with it that you haven't thought of, and you'll be like, oh, so easy. So I would definitely suggest that. Like a social media presence that's a professional one. Like I have a social media presence with my friends where I'm like, hey, and then I have one that's like Alicia, the graduate student, future teacher. And that's the one that I, connect with people, obviously with more professional photos and no one wants to see 50 cat videos when I'm like asking for advice. I've got a lot of the kitty playing. Anyway, so second question.
Yeah, and network at grad school. How to network?
How to network at graduate school, neighbor island students. You want to start with this one?
I don't mind. Yeah, up to you. Yeah, go ahead. No? Yeah. Go
Okay. So I guess just to get some clarification from you all. So do you mean networking with other graduate students? Do you mean networking with faculty? Both of them? Both. Okay. So one thing that has been super helpful for me throughout this process is connecting with people on like a personal level, and then use that as a tool for networking. More so with grad students, I think, than with faculty. So for example, I never really hiked before I moved here, but got really into it here. And now there's a group of graduate students where we go hiking, and it's, exercise, but like we're also like constantly talking about our projects and constantly talking about our programs and what classes we've taken and what faculty have worked really well for us and the problems that we're having. So there's a lot of people that I don't think I would have connected with if it weren't through this other thing that I was doing. And I know, again, that like flies in the face of time management, because sometimes I'm like, I don't have time for a hike, I need to write. But sometimes I also just need to talk through some things with other people that probably like don't want to talk about my son and don't want to talk about my job, but they like hiking. So let's just hike and talk about that kind of stuff at the same time. With faculty, I found the best thing to do is just, again, like I feel very awkward and uncomfortable a lot of times, but just get over it and email them. Start email and say like, hey, can I pick your brain about this? There have been some faculty in, like as my dissertation is becoming more interdisciplinary, I'm starting to feel like more and more out of my comfort zone. So I've had to email faculty in other departments where I don't even know any other students. And it's always like, hi, let me introduce myself. This is my project. I would love to pick your brain about this topic. Do you have office hours? Do you have syllabuses from classes you've taken? Can I buy you a coffee? Can I take you out for a drink? And I have never had anybody not respond. And I've only had like one person shoot me down, and it was just a really busy time of the year. And even if they can't help, you can always ask the question, do you know anybody else that might be able to help me if you're unable to? And you start reaching out to people through that. Again, I don't know if that's the most professional thing to do, but it's helped me, and I feel like I have a decent relationship with a lot of faculty at the college because of that.
Yeah, I think it's nice to think about it in two sort of different circles that overlap, right? Your graduate student community, your academic community, and then identifying who in those communities are going to help you with what, right? And you can't necessarily go, you are the person I go to for this, right? Because that would be a little bit awkward, even though sometimes I do that. Right? But thinking about the space that you spend with those particular students and how that is benefiting your process, right? If you have a group of graduate students who are all in different disciplines, then I would imagine that space is oftentimes about process, where you are in the process and how you're doing that and how you're building the different parts, or how you're getting through, managing whatever it is with regards to time management or money or those types of things, the life of graduate school. And then for someone who has had or has I don't have a particularly strong academic pedigree. I'm from a working class community, and I went to a working class high school, and I didn't get a very good education, arguably. I feel my ideas are good, and I feel like my work ethic is strong, but so I really needed to identify people who could help me specifically with writing. That was my one thing, and I probably should have done it early on, because a lot of professors will already expect you to be able to do that. And if you cannot, then identifying the person who can help you know, there have been various people at various stages of my life that have helped me to organize things so that they appear to be graduate level work, right? Which I owe all of those people significant amounts of praise, right? So identifying who those people are, sometimes it is a faculty member who is willing to go a little bit further with you, but I don't know that that will always happen within the course of your courses. You know, there may be an expectation. So thinking about that, yeah, I mean, I just think being able to be pointed with who are the people in your network and what you kind of glean from them, and then continue to ask them. Don't be afraid to ask them, and then just wear them out over the process and tell them that you'll thank them later.
Yeah, networking. Now it feels very intuitive, but in the beginning, you know, my dad was a mechanic. My mom was just you know, we're working class. Like I went to a normal high school, and I just wanted to get out of that small town so bad, but I did not have the skill. I didn't even realize what skills I did not have, basically. When it comes to networking, at this point, looking back, I would say, you know, I created these little cards that just says my name. It says a professional email address, and it has my phone number on it. So when I meet people at conferences or I meet someone out, some random meeting, because you meet people randomly. I didn't buy these on the, you know, I just printed these at my house. You know, everybody knows they're not, you know, like, you don't have to have some kind of like $50 thing or whatever. But when people are like, oh, do you have contact? The other way I've seen people do this when they want to make a network connection, instead of just handing a card to someone, they try to connect with them on social media right away through their LinkedIn account or something like that. So they're like, oh, let's just go ahead and connect now. But you don't know if that person, you know, may not want you to connect with them on social media through their LinkedIn yet, but they could still be someone who's useful to you. Come here, no, don't play with the computer. You don't want to play with the computer right now, okay? In a few minutes, okay? So basically, just what I would say is to think about, like, I mean, all of us in here are like mature, but there's more people who are gonna see this video. So I just wanna say, like, treat school like a work environment. Don't say things at school that you wouldn't say at work. Don't be, every time you are with people at school, you know, you don't wanna tell them everything that's happening in your life. You know, you don't want to be like a drain. You don't want to be an energy drain when you are, you know, at this environment, basically, even though you may have a close friend who you do know from school, and that is someone that you do confide in, and like you have some issues going on, or if you're having an issue that you need to discuss with your professor because of your work or something like that. I'm talking about in general. Don't just, you know, emotionally throw up on people like, oh, I was at work all day, I'm finally in class, so you won't believe what happened to me. You know, like someone's like, well, hey, how's your day? Unbelievable. You know, you don't have to tell them everything that was unbelievable about, you know, whatever little thing happened or something that was just so incredibly like abnormal. And I would also, I mean, I talked about how I kind of read the CVs to like get a foot in the door on like topics for how to approach professors. Don't assume that someone just wants to be like a mentor to you. Like that's kind of like a big job. So I would suggest, you know, if you have a specific question for someone's expertise, you know, a mentorship is something, it's a relationship that develops over time as you get to know this person. So don't just assume like, oh, well, they have the area that I like and I think they're really cool and people like them. That's gonna be my mentor. Like the mentorship comes from the mentor, not the mentee, right? So you have to think about, you know, this person will choose who they're like, oh, this person, I see where they're going. I want to help them. I want to take them under my wing. Every single professor here is in academia, you know, like they want your questions. They're excited to talk about their topics. I know it's awkward to go to talk to professors that you don't know. You're not in that school. You don't know anything about them. You don't even have like peers that you can be like, hey, have you taken so-and-so? Like you can't get any information except maybe, you know, read the CV, but you don't know if they're kind of gruff or maybe they're just really spacey and you're like, what did I just have happen in this conversation, you know? But it's, you know, they want to talk to us. So don't feel fear about that. We already talked about going to professional conferences. I trade cards with people at conferences all the time. They have little mini classes there so they can kind of keep you inspired. There's just a lot of networking opportunities, but the biggest thing I would say is just, maintain, a friendly professor is not your friend, right? They're not your friend. They're friendly. They're not your friend, right? Don't be like saying all the things you would talk to your girlfriend about or something, be aware of your environment basically. So that's networking.
Can I add one more point that I
Absolutely,
forgot to mention?
absolutely.
When it comes to networking, don't say no, like ever. So for example, like one of the faculty members that I developed like an okay relationship with, she was like, hey, I want you to go do this program over your spring break. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have the time for this. And it was like not related to my research area at all, but don't say no. I said yes, and ended up networking with people through there that have been a really great help to my dissertation. One time, like a faculty member sent out an email, was like, hey, my kid's school is doing a stream cleanup. We need volunteers. And so you say yes if somebody, especially somebody that you may one day consider a mentor, doesn't matter what it is, like you just say yes, you make time for it.
Absolutely.
I cannot stress that enough.
Absolutely. You got to support these little times because then they're going to take that time to support you. Absolutely. Reciprocity. So true. That's an excellent point. Excellent.
If anybody on your committee asks you to do something,
anything,
probably a good idea.
Even if they're not thinking
about it, they may not even be thinking about it in that way.
You do it.
You just.
But at the same time, faculty will also there's a line. There's a professional line.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point.
You're not going to cut my lawn.
Yeah. Right.
I will cut your lawn.
You're not slave labor, but yeah.
That's right.
And also the different models, the Asian model is the students will keep login to anything. It's very different.
Yes.
Here is with
Yeah. Different standards.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Make a comment.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Regarding networking, and I think it's been touched on about going to events and volunteering and all of that. I think what is really important for students is to make their face known as many places as possible.
Yes. In the community.
You don't necessarily introduce yourself to people that they see your face all the time.
Yes.
So when you do have the opportunity to approach them, I remember you from that conference, or you were at that volunteer thing,
Yes.
whatever it is. And especially if there's a particular community that you're interested in, always showing up is like, oh, you're here again. That's so awesome, kind of a thing. So I think that's really important later on. And you may, for example, take a class from a professor that you saw at a conference or at a presentation or whatever, and they'll remember you from that. So I found from KCC, starting there, because I still have professors that I'm in contact with that write references for me and stuff like that. So I think that connection is really, really important to start, like you said, early on, and not wait until it's like you're into it and you're going like, okay, now what am I going to do? So
Yes.
for me, I found that that's really important.
That's an absolutely awesome comment. Absolutely. Yeah. Just getting your face known. And then you're more comfortable with them. They're more comfortable with you. Like familiarity leads to, helping. Okay. The third question was about tips for thesis and dissertation completion. So I've never written a PhD dissertation, but I had to do thesis for what?
You don't want to.
Yes, I do.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I want to put on my Facebook, is there a doctor in the house? Eventually. So hopefully we'll keep it going here. So the tips for thesis, for me, what was really helpful, my mind is like a mile a minute with all these ideas rushing, and people are like, oh, write an outline, la, la, la. Everybody's got their process on how to write. But for me, I find that I'm trying to like edit and compose at the same time. So I cannot even type as fast as my mind is going. And I was a legal secretary. So like, that's fast. But as I'm writing the sentence, trying to get the idea down, I'm like, oh, it'd be better to swap it, or, kind of doing a lot of different things. So technology that we have now, when I first started school, the internet wasn't available basically. Now talks to text. I paid the $150. I got the Dragon Speak. It has helped me so much. I cannot tell you. So for me, that is the number one strategy that helps me write, because as I'm rethinking how to write that sentence, I can just say it into the mic. And even though when I go back to edit the document, it's not just completed, but I have both, you know, all three ways that I thought of that sentence are just listed in a row, basically. And you can kind of like get all your thoughts down and then go back and rearrange and edit. So I mean, they say silly things like throw up, then clean up, right? So it's kind of like, I just put the ideas on the paper. And then of course, you know, you have to do more organization and things like that. And then you're obviously going to have some kind of general outline of what you're talking about when you're writing any kind of paper. But talk to text helped me considerably. And then I know you've already talked about time blocks. That's a big piece of time management. So sometimes people have different ways of doing it. They have like word count, like I'm writing 600 words today. 600 words, I'm going to sit here until 600 words are out of me. Other people, that doesn't work for them. Other people are like, I'm going to work for 45 minutes every day. And when 45 minutes are up, maybe they got 3 words out. Maybe they got 500 words out that day. Maybe they wrote 5 pages because it's like really flowing that day. So there's different, you know, you will figure out what works for you because everybody's got their own system. But what about like an actual dissertation? Like, what do you think?
I don't think you want my advice. But we are incredibly fortunate to have someone in the room. So I probably know maybe 25, 30 people who've completed their dissertations through College of Education or maybe in different disciplines. And I'd say at least a third of them have attributed their ability to finish to Dr. Freeze's class.
Okay.
And so I wonder, and this is not to put you on the spot, but I mean, that is a true statement. I mean, people routinely say, pretty sure that if it wasn't for Dr. Freeze's class, I might not have finished. And so just maybe a little glean of why would you think that is the case? Why do you think that is the case? And you don't have to answer at all.
No, I mean, I'll share some things with everybody, and
And you
I'm
will,
honored
yeah.
to be here because it's really a pleasure for me to work with doctoral students. And I worked in the Masters of Education teaching program for 12, 15 years. So I, you know, kind of worked with many different levels. But I think what I found, and I'm just going to give you a little background, we were admitting a lot of students into the college, and we were having students not get the kind of mentoring and support that one might expect for this kind of journey and the need to have a lot of support. And I was finding that students were getting to the end of their classes. Now, how do I write a dissertation? So I guess it was about 20 years ago, I wrote a proposal to develop the course that I teach, which changes really every time I teach it because of the students involved. But it really was an opportunity for me to reach more students and have them come together as a community. It's really, really important for everything you guys have said about having other people that are experiencing the same challenges and just the whole process and journey. So so that's where it began, and I've had a lot of students in the class over the years. I've enjoyed, as I say, working with people because I was just talking to Dee Dee earlier. Our reason for being in the college, for being faculty, is for the students. It's not for all these other things that we might think about. And if we're going to admit you into the program, I really think we need to be doing more. So I can support the chair in a way that the chair may not have as much time to just give the overview or pull certain things together, and then you go and have something more specific to ask your chair. So anyway, that's sort of the genesis.
Yeah, I think that just to touch on that point, the specific thing that you asked the chair always relates back to me to where are you in the process, and Anne's class kind of tries to lay out the process so you can be able to specifically pinpoint which part you are working on. And then I would say you ask yourself that question, or you have your chair ask yourself the question, are you done with that part? Because if you're not, it doesn't always make sense to go on to the next one. Like, so it's not a linear process, right? But sometimes when you haven't defined this area, moving on to the next one doesn't always make sense. And then it becomes jumbled and your writing becomes jumbled. And I'm a perfect example of that.
Another thing is, as a graduate of the doctoral program here and someone who has taken Anne's class, another thing that is an intangible that was pulled out of that class was networking. The other students who are taking the class who are in similar situations to you become really good support for you as you go through. And one of the things she emphasizes in her class is creating writing groups. So it doesn't, addressing the time management. So it's not so much, you know, they have to be in the same research area as you. As long as they're kind of in a similar boat, you all get together and you just write on your own topics. And you support yourself just by being there and having somebody else's having the same struggles you are.
Like an accountability partner.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay.
You know, you're gonna, well, and that's why people take the class also. Sometimes it's like, I know I have to have something for next week. And we all need sometimes those targets and whatever. And the same with the writing groups. After the course is out, a lot of times we'll set up a time, place on a Saturday or a Sunday and just say, whoever wants to show up. But that gives you a sense of, okay, I'm not in this by myself. And I have to be accountable to somebody else. I'm not just gonna say to myself, oh yeah, this week I'll write 3 days, and then I don't. It's like maybe the night before you do write something. Get ready for this, ready for it.
Dr. Reese, can I ask what the name of your course is?
It's called Researching and Writing Your Dissertation. It's EDCS 761. I have been teaching it only once a year because of the number of students that, you know, are ready at points. And so I'm teaching it spring right now, and I'll teach it next week.
I took it with Margie Maka. So I took it on the off, just because it fit my schedule better. But equally awesome. Yeah.
Because, no, I'm sorry, I had to ask because it's.
I know, I'm like writing this down.
And I'm like, let's roll.
Oh, yeah. Dissertation writing class.
But also, I saw right now through, you know, the organizations, you know, for doctor students, but master students are welcome too. So there's a lot of effort to watch for it and then, you know, get yourself there whenever you can.
I have one comment. Maybe you have already covered it, but I want to comment on Dr. Grace's class. Why I think I think her class not just one of the best, most popular guys. It is the most popular class. Based as a student and took the class, and I have heard many students cheer what they said. If I didn't took the class, I wouldn't have got my proposal down. Well, I wouldn't be able to finish it. Why is that? Because it's the expectations on what a dissertation proposal means. It's very clear. Not just dissertation proposal, thesis proposal, and also about research generally. The textbook that she recommended talk about what the research is. And for me, and also for this event's target population, it's not clear for most of the non-traditional graduate students.
No doubt.
We don't know what research is. I come from music field. I didn't know. And she's very aware of many of those issues that where the challenges we're dealing with. And so I think that's just my comment on that class. I highly recommend you guys to take this class.
Or even understand what the class is about, and then be able to think for yourself about what the class is asking. And it's just kind of compartmentalizing your I keep going back to it because it's really what I strongly believe. Compartmentalize your thinking. What sections are you working on? And then focus on those until you got a good grasp, and then move on.
It is very practical and help you get develop your own time management skills, like to creating your schedule, planning, and also it's a great place for networking with other peers. And she's very practical on doing that, so that's why it's very, very popular. It's really, really good for it.
I'd also like to emphasize picking your committee is very important. You want to find faculty who are going to be very supportive to you, not just knowledgeable about your topic, but also very supportive to you in the process. So even if you couldn't take a class like Anne's, your advisor would be able to help you with that process.
Identifying it, hopefully.
Hopefully, willing to, hopefully, which is part of
probably willing, but
I just want to add to that. I would say that's almost more important than the research interests aligning. I mean, if I'm wrong, like, I mean, my goal is to get through this program. But so my dissertation and my interests have moved further and further away from my advisor as this program has gone on. But our like process, like we're in sync with each other and have a kind of relationship where like I trust what she's telling me. And I know that she knows like enough about my topic that even though there are other faculty members that I think were closer aligned, thank you, I've stayed with the advisor that I have just because like our, like I said, like our process is very supportive and our process works well together.
So true. And a lot of this works for even if you're not writing a thesis, you just have major papers or you're taking a class together with a group of people. Like, you know, we had a study session, just everybody on Oahu from my cohort on Saturdays at 5. We were together just doing whatever work needed to be done for the semester because we're all in the same courses. So you can use these same strategies for more than just writing a dissertation to like get you to the point where you're in these amazing programs that are available to us.
One thing that we didn't touch on in terms of getting through dissertation thesis that I took notes. I said writing circle. I'm in 2 writing circles right now, one with people that are on the same time as me with my dissertation, and one writing circle with people that aren't even in the PhD program that are working on papers on research that I'm interested in. So twice a week I get feedback. Thank you so much.
How do you find these writing circles? What does that look like?
What that looks like is, hi friends, I don't know you very well. Would you be interested in a writing circle? Let's meet at what Coffee Bean down the street at Manoa at 5 o'clock. Bring a friend.
Okay.
I've done this with like strangers.
Okay.
But it works.
Okay.
You just feel like real embarrassed doing it.
Okay.
And it's scary to put yourself out on a limb socially, but these writing groups have been super helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
A comment on that. I recently, actually last week, I just started e-writing group with people who I haven't met, and their field is not in education. They are in astronomy and linguistics. I just know. I see. I was brought into a very big community who are not students. I just say, hey, is there anyone interested in doing a writing group? E-writing group and writing my dissertation, or anyone who is interested in doing working on capital, any ideas if you want to write, even not just for study, maybe for work. Then so night we just chat. We plan to work like 9 p.m. 10 p.m. start to write. I'm start to write. Is there anyone with me? Then said yes, I don't need to write, and then I work till 3 a.m. Then some people still so if I didn't have that, or we never met, but I would say, oh, I'm so miserable. I'm writing 2 a.m. and nobody done, and then check up, and then say, are you still there? And say, yes, I'm still writing. But mentally you feel you're not alone, and that's very important because in a lot of times the nature of dissertation writing, it is isolation. I mean, you do it by yourself, but you can easily, it's very natural, spontaneous feeling that, oh, I'm so lonely. But if you just know someone that maybe there's a machine, but I don't know. But you're not alone.
I think that your idea of this writing circle is really powerful with people who aren't in your field, because I know when people read my thesis and they had questions for me, like, I don't understand this, that meant that section wasn't clear. So someone who understands everything, they're like, oh yeah, they get it, but then that person who's the lay person who doesn't understand what you wrote or some section, that's your indicator, like, oh, I need to do better here. So don't be afraid to have someone who's not an expert read your work, because they're also going to find your little grammar mistakes that you don't see because your eyes have like glossed over them 50 times, like that sort of stuff.
And I was going to say, so 2 other things that you want to set really, really early on in your dissertation thesis journey. First of all, a note-taking system. So like what has worked for me is I set up 2 columns. On the left-hand column, I have my quotations, and on the right-hand column, I have my thoughts about the quotation, and I also hashtag them. And this is all in Google Drive, because then if what I'm writing, like, okay, so for example, like I'm doing my dissertation on difficult conversations. the word conversation gets used in so many different ways. And so now I have like 10 sources from the last 3 years that all give different definitions of the word conversation, but I have this all in a Google Drive that I can just type in #conversation and look at those quotations. And I didn't do this the first like year and a half that I was in the program, and I'm kicking myself for it because I know there's other stuff that I read, can't remember who said it, can't remember where it was. So the earlier that you can set a note-taking system, the better. And you don't know how your dissertation, how your research project is going to change. So you never know what's relevant from the beginning of the journey that you might need and become super important later on. So the earlier you can set it, even with your coursework. Like I took Sarah Toomey's class on educational theories. I don't remember what the course number is on that, but I knew that there was like 1 week, like this is the week that my dissertation is going to be like super relevant. And now 3 years later, I don't have the syllabus anymore, and there's other readings from earlier in the course. I was like, oh, I really need to include that too. Can't remember what they were, can't find them because I didn't set it early enough. So note taking, and then also having a reference manager. So like I said, a way to collect the sources that you've read, because in your coursework, you read so much. And having just a place where that's all together, where you can take just like, okay, so like this article was about blah, 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 just like one sentence, so that when you're brain dead at 2 in the morning and you're like, oh my God, what was that thing that I read about speech acts? You know where to find it. And it'll save you so much time.
Yeah, so I have that now, and I built it last week. Yeah, it's never too late. But if you have that process down early on, it not only does it allow you to be more efficient with everything you do, but it begins to create those frameworks. The hashtags create those frameworks in your mind about who's talking about what in what ways. Yeah, it's incredibly powerful.
I use Zotero as the reference manager. And actually, do you do the trainings? I'm pretty sure I went to I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I've been to a training that you did on the different reference managers.
Actually, there's 3 common reference management software. One is most common is Zotero, which is free.
That's what I use.
The second one is what I personally use is Mendeley, and it's also free. The third one is a paid reference manager, and that's called EndNote. And I believe it's like $60 to $70 per year.
Yeah, and well worth it.
Yeah. So any of those, there's workshops. I give them workshops every fall for Mendeley and an introduction to Zotero. I believe Hamilton Library gives out the Zotero workshop monthly. I don't know this year, yeah.
Do you in those workshops, which I should have taken, I also use Zotero, do you address sort of how to structure how you work in the thing so it becomes more efficient, or is it just a layout? Yeah, I'm assuming I know
it's more, I kind of give out strategies on how to basically organize your work, because everyone's different. Everyone organizes their work differently. For example, the way I do mine is, okay, I have chapter 1, it's my dissertation, chapter 1 folder, chapter 2 folder, and then under each chapter 1, I have subheadings and then sub-subheadings and so forth. And that works for me, but may not work for you. So this is where you have to find what works for you organized-wise. You just don't want to listen to someone and guess what? It won't work for you. You're gonna be discouraged and you're not gonna work at it.
Yeah, and just make sure you build flexibility into the system. So like that definitely works if you know like exactly what you're doing. But so like I was doing that, chapter 1, chapter 2, the subtopics, and then I gave my advisor my first draft of my research proposal, and she was like, yeah, so this is great, but let's totally just restructure it. Which meant that like I also needed to totally restructure my organizational system, which was just mind-blowing to me. Like that set me back months just because I didn't build the flexibility into my organization that needed to be there.
And think about your future career, publication.
Yes.
For the grants, for the research, for the notebooks, everything is going to be not wasted.
It's
Mhm.
a forever.
That's a really good point. The research that you're doing now in school will carry through your career. So you want to, it's not just for getting through your thesis or your
Yes.
dissertation, it's for perpetuity.
And again, you don't know what's going to turn into something. So I did a project for a class on program evaluation. And I did the final project I did on a program at my school. That program eventually got me this job that I have for next year because I did this evaluation study. Got offered a job as a consultant because I looped the research back to the program consultant. I was like, hey, this is what I found. Just thought you'd be interested, and he offered me a job, which was awesome. And then that's also like setting a line for future publications. And it's something that like even now, I'm not super interested in it, but it's something that I now have under my belt for like, look at this paper that I did.
Okay, I just want to, we're running behind schedule, and it's a good thing because we're providing so much great information, so many great questions, but we are running a little bit behind schedule. So I think we'll do with the student panel maybe one more question before we switch over to the faculty.
So how about the work, school, and life balance?
Do things that can cover as many different, like do double duty. So I don't just like meet up with people for coffee anymore. Like we do exercise stuff because then I get to exercise for the day and I get to network. Or so for example, my Friday nights now are consistently other people in the program that have kids will bring their kids over to my house. We order pizza, we put all the kids in front of a movie, and we write. So social, babysitting, dinner. So cross off as many checks as you can with every activity that you do to be as efficient as you can. That's fine.
Otherwise, you will spend, I've probably spent more than 50% of Saturdays and probably 30% of Sundays over the last 5 years in the office working by myself, which is not an efficient use of time. And that's just because I'm not a particularly good time manager, but that's where I get my work done. And I think it's just that you carve out time. When I work with undergraduate students, I say, when are you going to do this assignment? If you can identify, and there's research to back it up, if you can identify when you are going to work on it, the likelihood that you will work on it goes up, and then the likelihood that you complete it goes up, and that's what you're kind of playing with.
And for everything, like meal prep, like shopping, when are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? Is there any way to double duty that thing that you need to do?
It's a little sad in a way.
It is, but
it's helpful.
Yeah.
So I do the same thing as far as like I call it a battle rhythm because I was in the Army, but basically like I have a calendar, I took a sheet of paper like Monday, Sunday through Saturday. I marked it from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and just have half-hour stints. And I literally like blocked out time and like I work an hour and a half a day. I'm not a PhD yet, so I work an hour and a half a day on each subject. And then on Sunday, I finish whatever work I didn't get done. But I also have blocked in like when I shop for the week, time, meal prep, when I'm eating, and then sleep. Like if I say anything about work-life balance, do not forget to sleep. You need your sleep. Do not think like, oh, I've got to push through. No, your brain is tired. It will take you 5 hours to get something that will take you 1 hour if you just sleep. Go to bed, wake up early. You will be so much faster. It will work better. And don't forget your loved ones. Like put them on the calendar. Put something that you love on the calendar too. So I go to the beach every Tuesday and it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. Guess what? I need to refill my soul. You have to have an intention. Why am I in school? What am I learning? Why am I learning it? What do I want to be when I grow up? What do I want to be this decade? Think about that. If people, if you're getting pressure from, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that, yes, I want to do that. But to be the person who can do that consistently, I need to go take a nap right now. Learning how to nap, very important. Close your eyes for 20 minutes. Clear your head. Think about your breathing, yoga, anything. You've got to learn to get rest. And don't forget to just look your loved ones in the eye every day and like, hey, I appreciate you. Hey, I love you. You're so busy. You got to make sure that you're not losing everything that you're doing all this education and trying to improve yourself for. So that is something I just wanted to add to all this amazing information. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any additional questions before we thank the panel and move on to the faculty? No, thank you guys so much. So I'll take another couple-minute break just so we can bathroom, do whatever.
Did we answer your question before? Yeah, okay.
Okay, everyone, I think we can get started again with, we're changing things up a little bit. Instead of having small group discussions with the faculty, since we're a small enough group already, might as well just have all the faculty at once. And we can just ask them questions and you can talk about your expertise in your areas.
Yeah, so still the same as I mentioned for the structure of student panel. The same, I based on the RSVP survey, and I kind of came up with three themes that students want to focus on. So one is about research and writing related issues, and what research is, what is the process, and how to write and finish, and kind of anything about research. And then there's another thing talking about what kind of jobs can I do over the career, how to prepare for that with my graduate degree, and what is particularly the two students mentioned about they were interested in the faculty hiring process and how students can get involved. Then another thing a lot about financial navigation, resources on campus, and the maintaining relationship with faculty, and as well as still time management and balance, those kind of things related about graduate school life. So that's a thing. And if you want to if you have particular questions, you can also look into the little format question answer. So what do you want to do?
I would like to hear their answers to these questions.
Oh.
Let's start off with the themes.
Any question that come up, you can ask. Sure.
Okay, whoever wants to begin, please feel
I'm
free.
gonna start to lead the first question.
Okay.
We can chime in.
Okay.
Maybe to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Introduce them?
Oh, yes, can you please introduce yourselves?
Okay, I will introduce myself. My name is Dr. Ann Freeze, and I have taught in the college for many years, and I retired 3 years ago, but I still teach this course once a year.
So take when you can.
Yes.
I said take the course when you can. That's such valuable.
If I'm at, we're going to introduce first, and then I'll go to this. Yeah, sorry. No.
Well, my name is Alicia Allen. I am an academic advisor at the Office of Student Academic Services here at the College of Ed. I received my master's from the College of Ed in 2008, and I'm also a doc student now, trying to finish up, although it's kind of hard. Working on it, one day at a time, one semester at a time. So I am a faculty junior specialist here, but in my position, I didn't need the doctorate yet. So working on both at the same time.
And you're beautiful.
Oh, and this is P, but we call her Lee, and she's here as my co-presenter.
She's presenting already.
Yes.
And I'm Dr. Sui, Educational Foundations. I'm the graduate chair, and I used to work in OSAS also. I've been teaching her ed for 27, 28 years in America, and I do a lot of international education as well, national accreditation for teacher ed. And so I've been in UH Manoa for going on 14 years already. It's a long time. You saw me coming, right? Yeah. So happy to assist.
Okay, great. So if you can.
Okay, so you know what I think I'll do? I actually, you can see I bring stacks of things whenever I, talk about these things. And but I am just going to give these to pass out just to give, first of all, an overview. not of the class right now. I'm just going to give you an overview of sort of the journey because we've heard the students talk about it. And as I mentioned, we had a lot of people get to the point where, now what? No one told me what happens after I take this class and this class and this class. And what really motivated me was I had a student, actually I had several students come to me to my office at different times. And I was still in the MET program, but I was advising a lot of students. And would you be my advisor? Came in, and I'd never seen this person before, never taken a course from me. And I said, you know, I have 12 students, or I'm doing this or doing that. I would really like to help you, but I don't really have any kind of connection at this point. I would recommend you go and talk with someone who you're taking a course from. And I felt really, really bad because this person was very, very disappointed. And I had that happen several times. And that's when I thought, you know, maybe we need to help people get the idea of what the process is so that they are thinking as they're taking courses, would this possibly be someone that I would ask to be on my committee or maybe ask to be my chair? Because that's a daunting thing in and of itself, is to ask someone, will you be my advisor or whatever. And so, I mean, I was older when I got my PhD. I had 2 small children at the time. So I really looked up to my professors and sort of felt this distance and never went to their offices or whatever. So it takes a little bit of getting acculturated into a program and figuring out what's my place in this, and do I dare email them? I know with email now it's so different, but I still think that it's important to have a mutual respect that goes back and forth, and not some unrealistic expectation that I want this and I want you and I want you to do this for me. So anyway, I'm just giving you a little bit of my background why I did this course, because we had a lot of people dropping out, people that took all their courses, all that time, all that money, and they didn't finish. So this is kind of an overview of the process, which I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to share a couple books with you that I think are worth just having on your bookshelf and looking at from time to time. But this is the process as shared with me and one of my doctoral students who worked with me closely. Number 1, beginning the challenging, rewarding, and memorable journey. Construct a dissertation contract. That's that timeline. That's the contract that you are putting for yourself. Establish the daily writing routine. Maybe it's not daily. As they said, it could be different. Research and review dissertations that are appealing to you. In my class, assignments involve finding dissertations, deconstructing, pulling apart those dissertations so that you see what a dissertation looks like, what it sounds like. Maybe you find one in your area, and in that case, you might go right then to the references and start looking at things that you haven't looked up before. But finding and looking at dissertations is really crucial. Start brainstorming what you want to write. Think about something you're interested in. If you're a teacher, maybe there's things that you've been wondering about, and I use that word wonder a lot rather than research questions. What are you wondering about? And start journaling, start jotting down, what am I wondering about? You might look back at these things sometime and say, well, yeah, that's where I started, and look at how I've evolved. Create online and offline filing, same thing we heard about before, management system. Maximize the tools and resources from EDCS 761. That's the course, the dissertation writing class. Now, this was my student who put this together, but I give a lot of resources out, and I say to everybody, sort through these. Some of these may not be that useful to you. Then don't just have a stack of things. Keep what is valuable and useful. Learning and getting familiar with the different components of a dissertation. This is where the course evolved, and that was the reason for it. What is a dissertation anyway? And what are the steps that I have to go through to get to the process of writing it. So think about a topic that you're interested in. Start journaling, start wondering, start asking yourself questions. What am I interested in? Why am I interested in this? Set up Google Alerts, be very, familiar with places that you go that would have the research articles, etc. Utilize filing systems, review dissertations, assemble a prospectus. First thing we do in my course is develop a prospectus. And that's just can be a 1 to 2 page just outline. I don't have one with me, but it starts you with talking about, number 1, the background of the problem, statement of the problem, theoretical framework, significance of the study, research questions, etc., etc. You may not have all of these things at your fingertips when you start the course, but the idea is get this sort of visual notion of what it will look like as I fill these pieces in. Forming a dissertation committee. This is, again, came from my doctoral student, but I agree with these things. Invite 5 faculty members who know you, your academic performance, and are familiar or interested in your topic. Establish a meeting schedule with your dissertation chair. I think that is really, really important. It's not about, I need my chair when I'm going to send that chair 20 pages of my writing and say, do you like this? Is this okay? What should I do next? Meet with that person. And I'm going to share something in here. This is called Writing Your Research, Writing Your Dissertation in 15 Minutes a Day. It's a fun book. It's an easy book to read. And I'll leave it out and you can take a look at it. But I have the students read this, or we read parts of it. And the chapter on choosing an advisor and a committee to me is really, really useful. One of the points is establish clear guidelines and expectations on each side. So in other words, get to know, develop a relationship, and what do you expect of me as a doctoral student? What might I expect? So it's kind of a negotiating the roles and responsibilities. Be realistic about your responsibilities in the thesis writing process. Don't expect your advisor to do your thinking or your work for you. As I said, sometimes someone might just write and say, okay, I just wrote this, what do you think? No, you have to meet with your advisor. You have to be showing that you're doing the input and they can help you sort out things. Don't throw temper tantrums. That's unprofessional. And I have to say, I've seen this happen before.
But if it happens, we will work with you professionally.
Professionally.
Yeah, we understand, it's a holistic journey.
I also want to reiterate making schedules with your advisor. When I was going through my program, admittedly, my advisor was a saint and he agreed to this. I met with him once a week. And he agreed to do that. Most won't. Again, I said my advisor was a saint for doing so, but it helped me tremendously finishing the program.
And my advisor, I was in educational psychology many years ago. My advisor and I got along very well. And when we got to the situation where you're really doing the research, developing the research design and the proposal and whatever, that's what I did too. I met regularly, and it made me accountable. And it wasn't to say, look at my writing, what do you think? It was really discussing what I'd done, what are some things maybe I should be thinking about, and you need to be prepared. That's really what I think, is when you show up, be prepared, and you will get great feedback.
Instead of winging it,
Yeah, and like, well, what do you think I should do? I was so tired this week, and I couldn't get to it, but I really want to, and I'm like, and I have kids, so and they're grown now, but don't whine. Don't whine. So the next one, establish regular meeting times and stick to them. Decide between you which reasons are sufficient for changing. Otherwise, keep the excuses to a minimum, meet, and be specific about what you're meeting on. Settle explicitly what your advisor is and isn't willing to read. I never established that with the students that I was on a committee or when I was a chair with, because I was very fortunate working with people who are very motivated, and that motivates me. If I see what they're doing, I'm willing to just go that next step. But again, if you sort of feel like it's your advisor's job to map everything out for you, you guys need to negotiate that. And I'm going to say one other thing. Again, take this because, I mean, think about this because it has good advice on the writing process. Somebody said earlier, the student speaking here, maybe it wasn't the student speaking there anyway, about dragon and using dragon speak. It was you, yes. What came to my mind, and I say to my students this, our thoughts disentangle through our lips and fingertips. So write. That's the thought process. Make a mess, clean it up. And that's what she talks about. Your rough drafts, making a mess, clean it up. Realize that you're sitting there with this blank screen. Just put your thoughts down. And when you said talking, disentangle through our lips. And that's the other thing when you're talking with your advisor or you're talking with your critical friend or people in the class, the more you hear yourself sharing ideas, that's how we get our thoughts to sort of come through. So forming a dissertation committee, this comes up from time to time. I've had students, because I've had so many students come through the course, that don't get feedback. You said you had it really good. And they write and they say, how long should I wait? I said, well, you know, maybe the person is involved with preparing for a conference, writing a research grant, doing whatever. Give them a couple weeks, give them 2 weeks. But I did, and I said, well, then maybe you might remind, whatever. But my advice, if you don't feel like the relationship is profitable on each side, you can change advisors. And a lot of times people don't think that. They're afraid that it's going to let that person down, or it might be a black mark for you or whatever. No, you talk to someone, maybe someone other than the advisor, and just say, how would I broach this? How should I do this? And I had a student who got her PhD. She comes now to my class and speaks, and she always says, it was really hard for me, but the best thing I did was change advisors. She got her PhD, finished it up in, I think, about another 1.5 years. Otherwise, she was just floundering. So feel open to that possibility if you're in a situation where maybe it isn't working. Number 4, writing a proposal. Constructing the proposal is really the goal of the course I teach. I want everybody at the end of the course to have the prospectus, even though it might change down the road, and a 3-chapter proposal. Might it change? Yes. That's okay, because if you know what the components are, what needs to be in that proposal, you'll be able to shift your thinking. You'll be able to talk with your advisor about it. But you've gone through the process of finding out, and I have a, basically some of the students say, well, that's like my Bible now. I have a handout that I give that's how to talk about each chapter, the first, the second, and the third chapter. So we do that in the course, and I have milestones. You have to submit things at certain times. The C in 4C is find a critical friend to provide feedback. Again, that could be like a writing group, could just be one person just in the same situation as you, could be outside your topic area, outside the college, but someone that you will meet with on a regular basis. And I had that critical friend. We both had children. We both were going through the program at the same time, and we still continue to be very good friends. In fact, we're on a committee. We've been on committees together. Conducting the proposal defense. Okay, so I have this proposal that I've written. Now what happens? We go through that. What happens with your proposal defense, how to prepare for that, and then taking the comprehensive exam or the quals. Each department has a different format. And we talk about what those different formats are. And then the last one, the final oral defense. And the advice that I share and was brought together by my doctoral student is construct a concise PowerPoint. Focus on data collection, data analysis, findings, and recommendations. Sometimes I've seen people go all through their literature and on and on and on. And to me, as a reader, as a chair, as anybody mentor in the class, for the class, that third chapter, your methodology is your recipe for how you're going to conduct this research. So when I'm reading a dissertation, I read all of it, but I really focus on how rigorous, how systematic, how solid is that dissertation, is the methodology. So that's why she brought that out. Focus on data collection, data analysis, findings, and recommendations. Prepare a handout and establish a timeline for revisions. Oftentimes you will have nice, valuable feedback from the committee. And that's another thing. You want to go in with the mindset that they're there to support you, not to, same with the proposal defense. Sometimes you go in and someone asks you a question or they say something. I've seen some students get very defensive, and I don't want them to feel that way. It's like, we're here to support you, and you gave us this starting point for us to provide guidance beyond that. If we don't have anything to read, we don't have any feedback to give you. But almost all the committees that I've been on are there to support. And when you're forming a dissertation committee, talk to other doctoral students. Find out, and this is also in this book, but I talk about it in class, find out a little bit about your committee members, because you want them to get along. You want them to be there for you. You don't want them to be competing in your dissertation proposal defense or your dissertation defense, where sometimes someone wants to get up and, I don't know, go on and on about their work or whatever. Find a very compatible, supportive group. That's really important, I think.
And that's another area where my office, the Graduate Information Office, can help you. We're glad to sit and consult with you and talk about who you might want to have on your committee and why. And
Good.
We won't make any final decisions, but we're help to counsel you on that.
Yeah.
Usually the best person to go to is your dissertation chair, right?
Right.
And then each member to your committee needs to bring some unique expertise or strengths with the focus of supporting you. So then it's a good dissertation. Otherwise, one person say go east, the other say go west, and then where are you going to go? It's that kind of thing, forever.
And it's kind of daunting thinking about my committee, who should I have or whatever. So that's great that you have a place to turn to. No, that's great. Okay, so that's one thing. This is another thing, and I'm going to turn it over to Dee Dee, and I have other handouts, but I will just set them aside if you're interested.
Thank you. It's always so thorough and then so organized and a lot of information, which is very beautiful. And what I was talking about apply to plan A for thesis as well as plan B for master students as well. Yeah, so dissertation, but also it's the same process basically. I'd like just to chime in a little bit. Of course, we're all come here and then to graduate. However, graduate school is quite challenging in America nowadays. And in Asian countries, some countries, and the students are still fully supported, and also full-time students completely. But in America right now, our graduate students, perhaps 95% are all, or maybe 90% are all full-time workers. And then with the family. So it's quite a different situation. How can we, our challenge is how can we have the quality the highest and then still keep everyone alive and then have a very meaningful, productive, enjoyable, and creative process, and as we are in the program. And then for a few data, for doctor students, 50% nationally does not finish. They're all dropped out after ABP. What is easy is the coursework. not really that easy, but you kind of hang in there, right? And there's a reading, so there's a support, there's a group work, and then write a paper. Somehow everyone can go through. And then what is hard actually, the dropout is all one is a dissertation, one is a plan B, one is a thesis, and everyone drop out and say, oh my God, I'm supposed to write it by myself, and what does that mean? And that's the problem. Nationally, average 8 years for people to finish a dissertation. But you know, if you think people are working full time, it's not bad, right? And then if you finish in 5 years, so that's a great, very productive. Yeah, 10 years is not a shame because there's so much work, you know, and the contributions, everything else. And we focus on quality, not on the speed. And I've seen students, if you really plan it well, can finish in 3 years. The fastest actually happened is 2 years. But the students have everything. They came knowing what they're doing. They already have all the materials, literature review, the ideas, everything else, because they are professionals. Then they're gung-ho with it. So this gives you a picture that why the last stretch is so hard. I concur with everything and talked about. I will just highlight a few things. It's the focus. If students come to tell me and saying, okay, I have every idea that I'm going to do in the dissertation or in the master program, great. But then I will say, perhaps you need to leave your room for change, right? Yeah. Otherwise, what's the point? You know everything you already know. You're going to do exactly what you know. How to do it. And what's the point of a master degree and then doctor student? So leave room for swimming, yeah, and expansion. Some people say, I have no clue what I'm going to do. Good. Yeah, that's why you come to study. You'd better get an idea fast, right? Don't waste your time. So how to focus? I always recommend this, your passion. It's your life. Okay. What is your passion personally, professionally drive you? That's the heart. Yeah. And some of you, the panel talk about the soul. Yes, very much so. Go to your heart, go to your soul. That's your passion. Okay, make who you are. Then nothing can stop you because you are following your heart desire and then move forward. You are getting enlightened through the whole process. The second part is your strength. All of us have a strength, right? And if the world is a beautiful place, we have so many talented people right even here in this room. If I'm using my weakness to compete with one dancer's strength, I'm asking for trouble, right? Yeah. But that's not to say through the graduate studies, I do not, overcome my weaknesses and do something that develop my new strengths, new areas of expertise. But use your strengths to make a greatest contribution to the world, to become more holistic. And the third thing actually is where do you want this degree to help you to go? Career-wise, really. Yeah, you want to be a teacher, wonderful. If you want to be a researcher, great. Or you want to be an administrator, leader, that's fine too. Or you want to be a researcher or faculty. So your topic, your focus, passion, and then your strengths and newly developed strengths as well as your, or career need to be aligned. Your dissertation or plan B or plan A, topic must be aligned on that. Yeah, you're not going to say, okay, I want to be a faculty in curriculum and studies, but I am going to write a dissertation, or, my plan A, plan B, on how to play football. Okay, yeah, unless you want to be a football coach, by all means, please do. Right. So that is the key. That's number one. I really, want to emphasize. Number two, actually, is as Anne have advised you, and I totally agree with her, but I'm going to highlight a little bit, is we need to streamline it. Most people fall off the cliff at the end is because they finish the coursework, without thinking about their interests, their focus, their career. And then all of a sudden, it's a daunting task to write a whole paper, a book all by yourself. How? So what does that mean is in each courses, you may learn, we may study it, but nothing clicked to me. There's no connection relation to the relevance for me. Nothing registered. I was just talking to Anne earlier a few minutes saying, people take research classes, but by the time it's time for you to do your research plan A and B or dissertation, people have no clue how to design a research, because when you're taking your research classes, you did not do your work, right? You did not learn. You learned, but you did not, right? It's not yours. So what I would recommend to all my students, and when you come to the program, every class you take, you streamlining it, connect with where you want to go. Okay. So right now, example, you can see my philosophy class. By golly, she have done such wonderful work and research with philosophy. Not only the ones we learned in class, there's additional she added to it, and there's all different topics. She had a whole theoretical framework for her plan A, plan B, dissertation, publication, grants writing down the road. She created her whole library. I still keep everything I studied from my master program, my doctorate, every folder, every class. Now, she said, I can't find it. You will be able to find it. I have my own library. Okay. Some I don't use anymore because I refocused in such a way. Yeah. But I know where to get to. Yeah. Each is a folder. You have your own libraries and then build up. In addition to the computer it's so easy to do research nowadays. But it's very different when you have it right here with you. And that is what it's for. Okay.
I have to reiterate the starting your focus early and gearing your course assignments towards your research. I did that from day one in my program, and by the time I was ready to start my research, I already had part of my lit review done because of the coursework I had done.
Yeah, definitely. So let's say if you take a class, find your focus, what you are interested in study. And then you take a philosophy class, you get a theoretical framework. Then when you take your research class, quantitative, qualitative, you align with what you want to do. You already figured out which method you're going to use. And then you take an ends class, you already finished the 3 chapters. Before you finished your coursework, you're pretty much all done, right? It's easy to do, conduct your research and write up findings and recommendations. It won't take 8 years to graduate. You shall graduate in 3 and in 5 for sure, even if you are working. So that is the key. Second, streamlining. Don't wait. Please live fully. Okay. Living fully, I totally agree with the advice earlier. Your health. I do not concur that you write from 10 p.m. all the way to 3 a.m. I give you, motivational kind of credit. I, appreciate you are working hard, but please don't kill yourself. What I would say, the graduate study is the time for us to apply everything we have learned to live smarter. Not just work harder, we're working very hard, but working smarter. Not to kill ourselves is the top priority, right? Yeah, so we all know between 10:30 p.m., research and to 2:30 a.m. is where our immune system rebuild ourselves. You missed it, you can't make it up. You can make up some sleep, but you are not going to make up your immune system. Okay, we are killing ourselves steadily and we're committing suicide, surely. Okay, I don't want our graduate program reinforce that suicide, right? Group killing, mass killing, basically. So that's not the best way. And what the advice was good, find out your schedules. Go to sleep. Sleep between 10:30 and 9 to 2:30. By 3:30 you get up. It's so quiet. Baby is still sleeping. Put the baby, and then you can do all the study you want. Nobody interfere with you. You can be so productive. 1 hour you do. Otherwise you are going to stay trying. I'm working hard, and then for a whole week's work you can get it done. Yeah. I'm not saying it lightly because when I was a graduate student, done that. Yeah, I was trying to push myself so hard, no eating, cut the lunch, and then eat all the junk food and not sleeping. Guess what? All my teeth fall out. Okay, the record, I have the fewest teeth. So today I can win the flossing contest if we need to. And but then I got so sick, right? I'm really ruined. Nowadays I'm completely on a different schedule. Yeah, by 10 o'clock. I do my meditation, I do my work, I do hike, and I'm going to sleep. And early in the morning, and I will get up, and I will do the work. So I'm so efficient and productive, but no pain, it's all joy. Yeah, I still have time to do everything. It's become effortless. So no self-torture, work wiser. Yeah.
Could I, oh, go ahead, you go.
I want to emphasize, it's really I cannot emphasize more about self-care and health. I experienced that too, and because I came here this year earlier as an international student, I didn't know what expected. For example, like as a student, even till now, I don't know the meaning of the English word stream. I have not really know, because it's my second language, and I didn't know that I had to, so. But anyway, so I try to. I basically I feel that so my background is empty. I didn't know. I feel it's empty in my knowledge. Also, it's empty in my life experience to live and survive and figure out navigate. So I was willing to sacrifice a lot of things, sleep hours, eating, no eating. So I was much younger, so which means I was so enthusiastic about doing something. Even if I didn't sleep like 2 days and nights, I still feel energized. But actually my body and I had 2 kids. So there were but I kept doing it for several years. There was a time I returned back to China. Everyone said I look so bad, and my health. I had a health issue. However, and the Western medical system could not tell anything wrong about my but blood pressure is the average they have a range of blood something with some white cells or red cells, but I'm in the healthy level, but close to the minimum, the bottom. And however, I went to the Chinese tradition, they said, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and I also myself couldn't feel good, although but anyway, that was kind of the crisis I experienced, and I started to, that kind of warning I received. I told myself I need to change my schedule, the way how I work, and then but the difficulty for me was that once I have developed the habit of staying out very late and even stay at whole night. And for many years, actually, I started to do that when I was a college student in China. And then it's hard to change. Actually, because when I may feel tired at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., but when 11 p.m., my start to get excited actually. Because I already had the habit of staying up late. So it's really hard to change. It took me several years. Even till this moment, I'm very in theory and I'm cognitive, I'm very aware. It's hard to, it's damaging my health. But still, it's hard. Like maybe every week or every some week, I want my body just even I feel I just didn't want to fall asleep, and it's hard for me to fall asleep. And just maybe till and I feel I physically feel exhausted, but I'm still trying to overcome this. It is my personal challenge. So I just want to emphasize, try to help yourself develop the habit of having a healthy life work schedule. Any of the better.
I just have to say, especially working with lots of different students and reflecting on my own experience, everybody has to figure out what works for him or her. It's so individual. And when my husband was getting his PhD at Caltech many, many years ago, I was teaching. And he was a full-time graduate student, work on his research, and he came home and his dinner was ready, and I was, teaching all day. When I was a doctoral student, I was like, oh my God, I got to go pick up the kids. Oh, and I got to drop my baby. I got to find a sitter. And this and this. And I was like, this is not good. He had it so easy and it's so hard for me. I had to let go of that. You just have to figure your own personality, your own situation, and say, if I want it, I'm lucky I have a chance to do this, rather than feel sorry for yourself or, oh, if only I could hang out with all the other graduate students. I couldn't, because I was, but I have to say, I had to figure out what worked for me. When I was with my kids, I was with my kids. When they were in bed, I was working. And that was the only way it worked for me to do it. I got my kids down early, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Then we all ate early. I'd have a beer before I started working, reward myself. And remember, you have to reward yourselves now and then. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have a beer, put the kids down. And now, bang, this is when I start working. And that was during the week, Friday nights, whatever, Saturday nights. We had family stuff, but then, and mainly this is my regimen when I was writing. Because when you're writing, you have to be immersed, fully immersed. But when you're taking classes, you need to be immersed. Just like what Dee Dee's saying. I mean, I find that some people think getting a PhD is like getting a master's. I'm going to check off this course, I check out this course, I check out this course, and then I write something. It's not. It's everything that Dee Dee said. It is integrating and immersing and really being serious about it. Not just, oh, well, yeah, my brother got a PhD, so I'm going to get a PhD or whatever. It's you have to have the motivation. You have to have the intention. Be intentional about it. So I as I say that, I hear my students when I ask them to write timelines and contracts and whatever. Everybody's different, and you might even try out how Dee Dee does it or how another person did it. But then it's got to fit you. It's like trying on a suit of clothes. Does this feel good? It's not working for me. So you try those things, and then you fall into the patterns that work for you.
And then at a graduate study, the last point I'll get to this wonderful advice also is really you are the leader. You need to be in the driver's seat. So that's an undergraduate, and then teachers always hover. Actually, it's not sometimes the professor does not care. We all care profoundly. But I have talked to certain professors. Some are more motherly or fatherly, and then some are more, articulating or warm and fussy, and some are just, seems to be very professional, right? And people have different styles. But I talked to some of the faculties. Sometimes the faculty deliberately ask the students to lead, not to chase. Okay, what's the point if you want to be a leader and you can't even lead your own study, and you need everyone baby you when you are bigger than this cutie? Okay, so that is the key. And the other things to remember, faculty does not only have you, the only baby, and many offers have a dozen minimum. Some have 20 or 30. And then right now in my program and at the foundations, I have 100 graduate students I take care of, plus 100 or more, 150 try to come in, and then plus my own students. I have my classes. I also have my own publications, conferences, and something else, right? So you need to realize that and then really be proactive. And we will chase in a way to be fully professional, but each person has the styles. And so wonderful advice, we assign interim advisor as interim advisor for a reason. Okay. In America, it's much more open. In Asian countries, you assign, you stick with that person forever, right? You don't want to rock the boat and then create trouble. And but here actually, it's for you through the classes, see who you like to work with, and then you can switch. Yeah, gently but surely, or even earlier. Then you can start your plan B, plan A, and then dissertation earlier that way. And then please do. And there's no hard feelings, everyone support. Some of the faculties have taken on challenged students sometimes, more than any other faculties. About all the faculties have been working to the best they can. We all have, we're human, we have strengths, weakness. So that is the thing, yeah. And the different styles very much so writing. The recording, I had one professor at Harvard, her recording is a very scholarly paper, and she can do that. For me, recording is not going to work. I can't even get an answer, if my water, is broken. I call the company, they have this automatic answer machine. They will say this, say that. I have a Chinglish accent. They won't understand. I can't even get through the phone line, right? So then recording is not for me. Yeah, writing is very different from the way I talk for me. Yeah, and then it's different styles, very much so. But isn't the technology wonderful?
Yes. Before we get on to Alyssa, I just want to reiterate the fact that you as the student are the leader of your program. And it touches on something that Anne had touched on earlier. When you're going to your faculty, if you're showing leadership, if you're ready, if you're prepared, they're going to be much more supportive of you and put more effort in. It's just human nature that when you show initiative, they will show, whoever you're asking help will show more initiative. If you're going there helpless, not knowing, floundering, it's human nature. They're not going to go the extra mile if you're not.
And also the earlier advice is, answer advice is also right, is don't throw fits. And also positivity. Yeah. We all have our challenges, but every time you come and tell me your kitchen is on fire, and then your gas is leaking, and then your car is broken and everything, we can listen. But those time could be used for me to support your academic journey and professional journey. I'll support other students. Remember, if you join the faculty, you join the whole program. Yeah? We want to make positive contributions, not the negativity. But we do support. Yeah, I have students, also sometimes have psychological conditions, family conditions, financial issues, and mental conditions. We support you 200%. But there's time for everything. Please support the faculty. Don't drive us nuts either. Because I have faculty, when they're trained, they get into car accident right after they talk to a student, right? Yeah, that happens. We're all human. Yeah. Before I speak, I just want to make sure I'm honoring the time schedule here. How are we doing?
Yeah, we're going. We're at 12:10. We ran late for the student panel, so we figure we're going to run late for this too. So
okay. If a baby agree.
Yeah,
she's
so we're
sleeping
good.
on the job. So. But yes, thank you to Anne and Didi for their great advice. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that they've said. And my part is talking a little bit more about graduate school life, kind of that work-life balance. So that was a nice segue to come into this section. And I think I just wanted to start it by saying in grad school, I feel like that's the time where I had to be the most reflective. And just, I have like a little hand motion. It's like an in-joke between me and my mentor. It's where like your head and your heart are aligned. And that's like where I try to make all of my decisions. So whether it's for school or personal, because it's all tied together, just coming from that place of like open and honest communication with yourself and having that sense of integrity as you're making your decisions because it affects your whole life. That has been so helpful for me as a master's student and then now as a doctoral student. So just kind of that is my overall theme. And then I think there were some specific questions, but I did want to just mention with the research piece, something that really worked for me. After I read a journal article, I would set the clock for 5 minutes and I would just write, like free write and not worry about my English or grammar or anything like that. Like even some of them started with like bra, guess what? And so it just write like how you would talk or how you would think about that article. And then that's when I really make more connections with that academic scholarly work because I felt like I made meaning with it in a personal way. And just 5 minutes. And then it helps with that writing piece, as Didi and Anne were talking about, just kind of that process of writing and writing on a blank page. So I did that after every journal article that I would read, just to get some, meaning from it in a personal way. So that was really helpful with research. And then just to reiterate what Didi was saying about coursework, courses that maybe I wasn't that excited about, like in particular, there's one called Ed Finance that I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not a numbers person and this just seems so horrible. But, for other people, that's an exciting class for them. So I had to find my, where my passion fit into that class. And my bachelor's degree was Human Development and Family Studies, and the master's was in Higher Ed Administration. So for me, whenever family issues and higher ed connect, that's where I find the joy and passion in my work. And so for Ed Finance, my project was to
look and see how infant care could be established here on the Manoa campus for faculty and students, and to figure that out financially, because it was something I was very interested in. So just kind of, if something's not that exciting for you, to bring that drive and passion to it, that would be helpful. Some of the stuff we kind of already went over. Financial navigation though, so as an academic advisor, I know finances can be really tricky with funding graduate school. We're lucky in the College of Ed, we have very supportive departments and scholarships and grad assistantships available. So I would recommend just keeping up with all of the emails that are coming in. I know for me, sometimes as a COE faculty member, you get like 50 emails a day where it's kind of things get lost, but pay close attention, because you don't know which one is opportunity for you. And so just for example, for me in my master's program, I had a grad assistant position that helped pay for the tuition. So that was really great for me. And there are still ones like that out there, and they exist. Or if it doesn't fully pay for tuition, there might be other connections and networking that you're making through that position. And then the nice part about grad assistant type stuff is that they know you're a student first. And so they're really, it's not like, I've had student horror stories where they get fired if they don't show up for their shift at the restaurant in Waikiki. But here, and jobs on campus, they're more understanding. And then of course, loans, even though people don't want to take out loans, but again, just making sure that your head and your heart are aligned, that you're open and honest with yourself. If you're meeting with financial aid and they have, they're telling you about the different loans that are available, to really understand what it would be like after graduate school and what that commitment would mean to you. Because a lot of times we do have to take out the loans to finish. So. Oh, and I can't say enough about College of Ed. I'm like, we're in the best college. And I know that's so biased to say, but we really are, to understand what it's like to be a working student, to be a student parent, to be have family obligations. And we also have LTech, learning tech, the distance program that Frank was here, and he does workshops on citation, what are those called? Mandalay. And so these are technologies that are available to us, and we have nice people that are doing workshops to help explain it to people that maybe aren't as tech savvy like myself. That really, they tell me about it, and they're like, you have to get on this. It's going to save you hours and hours when you're writing, because it does it all for you automatically. Yeah. So we have that tech side to us, but we also have that human understanding side to College of Ed, where, they get it. They get that we're all human, and I feel like all my interaction with the faculty in this college has been very positive in the way that they understand that about us as well. And then just to kind of wrap up, I guess for me with work-life balance, because things do get overwhelming. This is my youngest child. I have an older child. So I work full-time. I'm a student. I'm a mother of two. And it's easy to feel that overwhelmed feeling. But I just have little things I say to myself to make me feel better when I'm feeling stressed. So like if it's with school and I'm writing something, I always tell myself, well, you could be doing this on a typewriter. So that makes me feel better and automatically shifts me into a more positive mood. And then if the girls are like she's teething right now, she's up, if I'm up at 3 in the morning, I just smell her head, that baby smell. And I try to remember this is so temporary, and she's going to be like, a kid in no time.
Exactly.
So just enjoy this moment, even though I might be a little bit tired tomorrow. And then with work, the thing I say to myself is that just one day at a time, because you can't fix everybody's problems, all the students' problems in that day, and it's okay to just walk away sometimes and come back. Everything will be there tomorrow. So those are the little things I say to myself to help me keep balanced and remember some perspective, because it can get overwhelming for sure. But like I mentioned, COE, greatest college ever to help us understand and understand our personal situations, and then even Grad Info Office to help us connect with the resources in the college.
I totally connect with the reframing your thinking about your children and your responsibilities, because it's easy to just kind of go, oh, this is just too much. I'm going to make one comment on the technology that I've seen come up in my class. When I was doing my PhD, we couldn't do everything online the same way. I had to go over to the computing center and, punch in all the punch cards and whatever. But, and read the journals, you had to go to the library and read the journals, which actually in many ways was good because you're really forced to do that. Yeah. What I've seen some people do is just keep adding and adding and adding more resources to Sotero, Mandalay, whatever. And it's like, you feel good because all of a sudden oh yeah, and I have 25 on this, and I have this, and I have this. Sometimes people aren't reading them. And when you said you read them and you free write after it, I just say, think about that. That is a great way to realize that you're putting the time in and you're making sense of it. If you read the abstract and you read the introduction, or maybe you even jump around a little in the article and it doesn't suit you, that's okay. But don't file it away and have that be one of the references that you're not even going to use it. So be selective and read them. Read, process, free write, highlight, whatever. But that's the problem I see with tech with some people.
A lot of research, but actually there's not much learning.
That's right.
It feels like I know so much, but then by the time you write your plan B, it's I call it stacking the citations. Anne said this, Alicia said this, Didi said that, Adam said this, Wanda said this, but what's your idea? Where are you going? Make sure it's your idea, your research. Others only support and enhance your discussion. So, and actually, I really love what Alicia, really the advice and everything. I actually love the alignment. The alignment at the head. And then our heart, and then I would say also our mana. All three alignment is the key. It's also the advanced spiritual development too. So that can be a model. Whoever ready to write a plan A, B, and dissertation, that would be beautiful and powerful. And I'm asked to start to talk a little bit about. Of course, you are in a graduate program. You also want a job. So where are we going? Just start this, and Alicia can chime in, and everyone can chime in here. I would say when we look at job, should not be at the time that you are graduating, you are defunding. That's way too late. The job search actually starts before you come into the graduate school. Obviously, you want some change, right? You want to learn. Then you need to use it for some purposes. So when students come to me nowadays, I always say, where do you want to go? How do you want this department to help you to fulfill your professional career desires? Okay, keep that, and then that will guide your writing also, the focus of your research. Start early is important. The second thing is, I concur with everyone said here, learning does not happen in just the coursework. Learning does not happen in classes only. We are doing faculty search almost every year. And a few years, and most of the times, some of our own PhD students graduated happily and start to apply because they don't want to leave the island. Yeah, it's such a beautiful place. It's a paradise. However, there's a very, striking, kind of a contrast. Nowadays, any job is competition, not only nationally, but internationally. Right? People come from all over the place. Look, I'm sitting here, right? And so what happened is in the past, it's easy to find jobs. Yeah, you get a degree, you get a job. Nowadays, it's not so. For a faculty position, for a researcher position, and many times we actually require international, national, regional conference presentations, evidence of your scholarship. We require your publication. When our own graduate get a degree, a piece of paper without any publications, it's completely, entirely not competitive. Yeah, you are out. You can't even compare. And so that is the key. So I would say, look at your interest and then passion and strengths. And then, as you're right, each class, some of the students I have taken 2 international conferences for presentations because there is a support here. Yeah, and the university colleges have a travel support for you to go. And then to actually publish in the proceeding form, paper form, you publish. Every paper you write, whether it's a qualifying paper, comprehensive, you're writing your dissertation, literature review section can be published, right? And then break it into different pieces. You can be much more productive. Not just publish until after you graduate. It's a little bit too late. Never too late, but it's kind of late. The other things I encourage you to look at job descriptions. Look at the work at UH, see what kind of jobs you like. Look at the whole system. If you're in education, KCC, LCC, WCC, and the other, MAUI, and also Hawaii, you can just look at their job listing, see what you are interested in if you don't want to go other part of the country or the world. And look at whether it's researcher you're interested in, faculty position, see the availability. Don't think come into the program saying, oh, I want to be a professor in, let's see, astronomy, but I have no clue how to get there, what's their requirement are. Right? Read all their requirement. Then in the program, you will align your study with those requirements. By the time you don't need to fight for a job, the faculty, the network you have will get you the job. Go to the conferences. So that I believe is very important. Yeah. And also don't design your own study so narrowly. The truth is I encourage people, the world is so wide now, there's so many possibilities. I would say that what the program have helped you to learn. You can be a better teacher, classroom teacher, master teacher, the best teacher under the sun beyond the moon if your heart is to stay in the classroom. Or you can be a principal, a leader. Okay. Or you can be a researcher. Or you can be a curriculum developer. Or you can be a faculty. Or you can go to the UN, lead the whole UNESCO, the whole everything. It's all feasible. You find a theme that can open up the horizon for you. Not just so narrow, I have to go to astronomy and become the faculty. If they don't hire the budget cut for 10 years, I'll be out of Waikiki begging for 10 years. So it's really plan ahead. And then talk to your faculty, the committee members you bring on board. We all have networks and to help you. But you got to let us know. The resources is the same. The resources, the graduate assistant, I would say we don't have enough. I would advocate for opening more graduate assistants. Yeah, especially in education. Science, they have more, but education is really not enough. But for example, educational foundation department, later they will have budget challenge we don't have. We used to have 1 or 2 actually. We're rebuilding that. But then you can look for college-wide. Or you can go beyond the College of Education to look for a graduate assistant. That's one. Or you can find a part-time teaching and support yourself. The other is we do have a scholarship. You need to let your advisor, the graduate chair, the chair know what you are looking for. And then, for example, right now it's the season for graduate division achievement scholarship. Please, apply. But you need to know this is the season, otherwise you're going to miss it. And OSAS always have in January the scholarships for College of Education. It's due February for the rest of the year. So you missed it, you miss it for the rest of the year, right? So those are the things that's important.
I wrote a really informal article for a colleague on the mainland who has a blog about adulting. And so it's called Surviving Grad School 101. But I'll email it to when done and she can share electronically with everyone.
I'm going to just set out, obviously I made more than we need. This is called the Myths and Truths About Academic Research Projects. And I think it's helpful to just sometimes see what, what some of our beliefs are going in and how, we might be flexible. And then I also brought something else, and this is appropriate, I guess, for the master's, but mostly for PhD. It's just a nice overview that one of my students in the class developed to see all the components that would be in a dissertation. And it's just a very nice visual display. So if you need more, they're right here.
Yeah. The other is always look for your advisor and department, and we'll have a good example. If you're writing a plan B, for educational foundations with the 115, we have all the past plan Bs, the good ones and the bad ones. Go take a look, and then you will know what's the better one, or the greatest one you can take. And there's examples of dissertation similar topic. So get the information, get a good example.
Yeah, very important.
It's a lot easier. You get even the templates. It's a lot easier, save you a lot of time.
We all kind of think we have to reinvent, or that we have to have this, earth-shattering research, dissertation, whatever. That myths kind of explode some of those, but I think one of the key things I keep saying in my class is find models, find examples. When I did my dissertation, it was in Ed Psych, and it was a quantitative study. And at that time, research was, at least quantitative for sure, research was very distant. We didn't do things kind of involved with the classroom qualitatively or whatever. And so everything, there was never an I. You were not at all involved in the study. And so when you look at dissertations, see what the language is like. See if the writing style is sort of more how you would write, so that you aren't saying, I got to do this academic language that using all these big words. No, write in a way that works for you. And I think I was sort of, when I would read research, I always thought it had to be so academic. And then I started, after I was doing more qualitative research, I started reading studies that were written so differently, and they were so engaging, and they were still research, but it wasn't this, very distant kind of approach.
So know the different models, different styles, and then when you write, be consistent, and then develop your own voice much more. Yeah. So I just saw one draft. It's from the first person to the third person and jump to another person. I was like, wow. Before you talking about.
Yeah.
But that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, interesting.
Yep. Okay. Any questions for our faculty?
I think, do you have a question? Yeah.
So many information, so I really need to soak in.
Well, I'm going to just add one more thing, and again, it goes so much with what Elisa said. Be reflective, and I always ask my students to keep journals. And the journaling is such that even if it's like what you said, you start very informally, but give yourself maybe 5 minutes after this session and just jot some things down. And if you don't write, the other thing is get your phone and talk into the phone. Record something. But the idea is get those thoughts kind of, activated, and you've taken notes. Maybe you go back and read your notes and then free write. But I really believe in reflection and getting your thoughts down.
Digest.
Yeah, right.
Great. Well, we'd like to thank you for
Thank you.
this is incredibly informative.
I forgot to give you my sneezer appreciation for you.
And for making us bag lady.
Thank you. I'll pass that one down.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Thank you.
And I'll give one done and Adam and everyone.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody.
It's good you've been taking.
Oh, gosh.